we get started, and if other members join, we'll address that as we get to the roll call section. So welcome everybody to the September 8th meeting of the Fairfax County Architectural Review Board. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA, the ARB has to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First and foremost, because each member of the ARB is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that the quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each ARB member participating to state your name and your location from which you're participating. I'll ask that you pay close attention to your fellow members to determine if you can hear them well, because following this, we'll do a roll call. We'll establish a vote that we can hear every other member. Starting first and foremost, Ms. Michelle Albury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Michelle Aubry. I'm in my home in Alexandria, Virginia, and so far I can hear everyone and see everyone fine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. John Burns.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is John Burns. I am sitting in my living room in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Ms. Camblin, we have you here today. Do not see her right now. Mark her absent. She said she would be here. I'm Christopher Daniel. I'm the chairman of the Architectural Review Board. I am calling in from my home in Reston, Virginia. Ms. Swan.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Samantha Huang. I'm joining the meeting from Reston, my home.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Kolinsky.
Thanks. This is Steve Kolinsky. I'm in my office in Alexandria, Virginia.
Right, thank you, sir. Ms. Murray.
This is Elise Murray. I'm participating from Weems, Virginia.
Thank you, ma'am. We have not heard back from Ms. Knockin, so she's going to be marked absent and unexcused. Ms. Orr.
This is Kay Orr, and I am hearing everyone well. I'm so excited, and I'm in my home in Alexandria.
Thank you, Kay. Good to see you. All right, Mr. Plumpy.
Yes, hi. This is Joe Plumpy from my manor house on Manor House Drive in Fairfax Station, Virginia. And I hear everybody and see everybody clear, and it's all good. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, sir. And Mr. Zellman.
Yeah, this is Jason Zellman. I'm in my home in Burke, Virginia, and I hear and see everyone just fine.
All right, at this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to our vice chairman so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice is adequately heard by each other member of this ARB.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Ms. Orr. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
All right. As determined by the roll call, 9 members of the ARB are present and therefore satisfy an ARB quorum. The ARB bylaws state that a minimum of 6 members are required to determine a quorum. It is so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll gladly second that.
Oh,
We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
All right. Third, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, and what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this ARB to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require physical assembly of the ARB and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that the ARB may conduct this meeting electronically through WebEx, a county virtual meeting platform made available for access through the ARB county website or through phone at 1-844-621-3956 with the access code 2340-769-0662. It is so moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second it.
All right, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
All right, next is required that all of these matters addressed today on the agenda are statutorily required or necessary to continue the operations and discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And last, the ARB needs to determine how long each member of the public will be able to speak during public comment periods. The public will be allowed to comment after consent agenda items as well as after action items, as is ARB standard practice. I move that each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. I think Ms. Orr got in there first. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. And I hand the gavel back to the chairman.
All right, thank you. I think that was a good speed record there we set. All right, onward and upward. So a few more bits of business out of the way. Public comment time limit. We made that clear that the public has 3 minutes to comment on any item that allows for public comment. As I indicated before, that can be indicated through raising your hand in the chat, saying so in the Q&A section, or by pressing *3, which you're calling in via a phone line. Grace and Denise will be monitoring things to see if anyone has that during our items for action. Denise, do you have any information to share about WebEx in addition to that?
I do. Yes, I wanted to make the people aware, people tuning in, that this meeting is being recorded and that the recording will be posted online within 10 days. Attendees may email me during the meeting or use the Q&A box or chat function in the WebEx platform for inquiries. Staff will monitor and respond accordingly. And we are chatting with somebody right now who's having difficulties. So thank you so much. Bear with us. We're working it out. If you're calling in and wish to make a public comment, please indicate so by raising your hand, by pressing *3 at the appropriate time. And that's when there is a public comment period, and you will hear that from the chair. Attendees experiencing technical issues should call WebEx technical assistance at 1-866-799-3293. And of course, we'll try to help as much as we can.
All right, thank you, Denise. So, excuse me, frog in my throat. So we begin all of our ARB meetings after we get through all that administrative work by reading the statement of purpose and intent of historic overlay districts. I did not ask if there was a member that wanted to read them, but there is. Oh,
I'll do it.
or thank you.
Historic overlay districts are created for the purpose of promoting the general welfare, education, economic prosperity, and recreational pleasure of the public through the perpetuation of those general areas or individual structures and premises that have been officially designated by the Board of Supervisors as having historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. Regulations within such districts are intended to protect against destruction of or encroachment upon such areas, structures, and premises, to encourage uses which will lead to their continuance, conservation, and improvement in a manner appropriate to the preservation of the cultural, social, economic, political, and archaeological, architectural or archaeological heritage of the county, to prevent creation of environmental influences adverse to such purposes, and to assure that new structures and uses within such districts will be in keeping with the character to be preserved and enhanced. The end.
Thank you, Kay. It is one heck of a run-on sentence, no doubt.
Yes.
All right. So moving onward, a few other things to just bring up to the attention of applicants. Obviously, please limit your project presentation to 8 minutes for any first-time submission. And if you are a resubmission, please try to limit it to 3 minutes. Denise and I will be tracking that on our end, and we'll give you a friendly reminder if you're starting to get close to about to go over of your time. Again, we've received all the submittals and materials you've provided, so we've had those to review. So I would encourage you to focus on obviously generally summarizing the project and talking about how that project is in compliance with the appropriate guidelines that the ARB is in charge of overseeing. With that in mind, we would then need to approve our agenda to move forward. So I would look for a motion to approve the agenda either as provided or if any addendums.
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the agenda as provided.
All right, so there's a motion to approve. Any seconds?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the agenda carries. Moving onward in our agenda, we have introduction and recognition of guests. Denise, do we have any guests that we need to identify or recognize?
I do not see anybody specifically.
Okay, that's all right. We don't always have to have. All right, there are no consent calendar action items, so this takes us right on into our items for action. I'll just remind if there are members of the public, if you have any comments on any item for action after the applicant presents is when there's your opportunity to provide comment before the ARB asks its questions and provides its comments. The first item on our agenda is ARB 22 HOL 19 7500 Elba Road deck replacement located at 7500 Elba Road. The applicant is proposing to remove an existing wood frame deck and build a new deck framed in the same location using the 2018 Fairfax County typical deck details. The applicant proposes to use Trek composite decking and a Fenny-free cable rail to enhance the integrity of the deck. This is being presented by Mr. Dan Beard. Mr. Beard, are you with us?
I'd like to make a correction to that. Rick Hefner and Andy Height are here to represent. The owners are representing rather than the contractor.
Understood. All right.
Dan Beard is here.
All right. So everybody's here. Okay. All right. So let that note for the record that the owner and their contractor are there. Denise, is there any additional context you want to provide for this one? I don't know. This was one that came to us and had a little bit of an administrative hang up on it. So I don't know if that's something you want to provide from a staff perspective.
I can. I would actually like the presenters to go ahead. I've asked them to explain the context of
That's
the
fine
multiple emails that you also received. So
okay, so would that be Mr. Height? Who will be presenting? And is there a presentation?
I do. This is Andy Height. I do have a presentation. I'm looking now. I guess share.
It usually takes a few seconds for that button to become active. Once I think it's Grace gives you the ability to do that.
Okay,
there we go. Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So I can't see myself doing it. Okay. So I'll assume you're seeing the same thing I have. Just want to introduce, this is our property at 7500 Elba. We are the corner of Range Road and Elba. The deck I'm going to mention, you can see on the plat, is on the back end along the Range Road side of the house. What I submitted, we submitted was, here's the overview of the view from the sidewalk looking through the driveway at the deck that we're proposing to replace.
And Mr. Height, is there any way you can maximize the window you're looking at? It's we've got a lot of, there you go. I mean, we just so we can possibly see as much as we can on our screen. Some of us have smaller monitors, sorry.
Okay, is that better?
Is on my end.
There's some details on the bottom and the top that I don't think, it's just the titles.
Okay.
So if you can't see anything, just let me know and I'll be happy to scroll down. I do have different slides with these same images, but this is the overview where this is can you see my cursor if I'm trying to point something?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the current view from the sidewalk looking through the driveway. We call it our back deck, which is also connected to the front of the house and the front step to the door. Below is a close-up example of the house. Our proposed idea is up here in the top right, where if we go back down to the bottom left, I'm sorry. We have the reason we're presenting to have this removed and want this removed is the previous deck. This end of this post right here, this part of the deck is actually sitting on the ground. This corner here and these steps cause tripping hazards our contractor that's on with us, he actually is one of the people that slipped off this. So that's why if you go up to the top right, we're proposing for this lower platform is to square it off. And then for the main deck that's off the back of the house is you can, if you look at the original bottom left picture, you can see there's a step when you come out of the sliding doors and then you come down onto the deck. So our plan in the top right raises that up a little bit so that we have this front floating deck now, and then there's a step up to the main deck. One of the questions that was brought to us was, are people from the street going to be able to see the support system for the deck from the street? And this is the bottom right corner is just an example of how we plan to landscape this area so you wouldn't see it. And I go into more details on that later. So here's just closer up view of the house and how you can see right on this. I'm not afraid to call it our ugly deck. Here's the close up. And then you can see here's the step. And then here's rain usually drops down here. And then like in the wintertime, this will freeze. And then you also have the stone that also causes hazards. This again was, I just moved it. This again was where this part of the deck is sitting on the ground. There's no middle support. And if you look up at the top right, the back end of the deck is just supported with I think it's a 4x4 or a 3x3. I don't know if they make 3x3s, but it's not adequate or up to code. And none of the framing under this deck most likely is up to code. So here's a closer up view of the platform, and you can see the previous deck underneath and how it's different. So we're chopping off this one corner here, and then we extended it about 1.5 feet out on this side, and then 1.5 feet in the back. And then again, here's how we plan to landscape it. This view is probably a better, more accurate. It's about 1/4 inch equals, I think it was 4 feet, or 1/4 inch equals a foot scale. So this is the part that is covered with the roof. This part here is the current platform. These we don't plan to do anything but take off the decking and replace it with the Trex. And but we do, if there's anything that is not to code, we will update that stuff, but there's no major changes to this up to this line where the original deck is. This light area is what's going to be new. So there'll be support systems here that will be to code so that we can expand that out. And then this part here is the new deck. And you can see that it's about 1.5 feet longer, and then about 1.5 feet, I think it's 2 feet wider. And then again, I just threw in the plants to show that everything from the street view will be hidden. This is a sample of our Trex color that we're using. I'm going to also have another slide later that shows that. So this is the top view or side view looking from the woods to the back side of the house. This is the current deck with its 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, we're missing one side. So 5-sided deck. And what we plan to do is replace it with what I'd already shown, but the railing will be simple black railing, cable rail in between. And if there is any issue with visuals from the side, we would put skirting on the side to hide that. And so you can see, I've tried to show this would be code 6x6, and then this is the little post that was there. Next slide. So this is the Trex Rocky Harbor. We decided to go with the Trex that look like a wood. It has the different variations of color in it. So it wasn't just one of the solid cheaper Trex decking. It actually has a wood appearance. And in this photo, which isn't our house, This is similar. The handrail is actually thicker than we're going to go with, and we're not doing these caps on top, but this is the similar railing and then similar, I think it was 4x4 posts. This is a sample of the closer up of the railing. The similar caps that we're going to use, all this would be black. This would be the Rocky Harbor Trex. Every trim, even the side trim would be black. Post would be black. Handrail would be black. Cable will be the cables, that silver color cable. This is like a higher up view of what the first slide was, just showing the difference in the gray is what was original deck. The orange outline is the new deck, even though, like I mentioned, this front section is not being touched. It's just this section that covers up the sidewalk and then the big part of the deck. Example again of the landscaping. So if there is anything visible from the road with our landscaping, you wouldn't see that. And our goal is to not even be able to see the deck itself, because this will become our main entertainment deck. So we don't want people to see the deck, and we don't want to be on the deck seeing them from the street. I don't know if you need to know the landscaping, but there's just pictures of what we plan to use, similar to what we've used on the other side of the house. This is a view from the neighbor's yard. First top picture is from 7423. This one is 7419, right across the street. Besides not even being able to see the deck, we also have our driveway, so that also would block the view. And you can see how to block our driveway, we've done the California, I'm gonna have to flip back, I forgot the names of them, California privets here, that these are only a year old so far. So by next year, they'll be a lot bigger. And then the ones by the deck will also be bigger. And then this is a sample from the front. You can see this is what we had so far of the newer deck. And so here's our Blue Atlas. And then all of this in here would be new plantings. So it would be similar to how you can't see the front door here. You wouldn't be able to see the deck there. Just close up view of the area. There's some of our plants. The rest of them are down here in this bottom area, trying to stay away from the sun to keep them from dying. But this whole area, that the reason we decided to go 2 feet wider is because this is a hill that goes down into our area where our utility room door and our shed are, and it's useless to us. So what we plan to do is put plants, trees, anything that will extend this. If you see in this bottom picture, it's all woods between us and the neighbors. We want to extend this woods area up to the deck. So when you walk out onto the deck, you're looking into trees. You're not looking into an empty grass area. So, and this is the last slide of this, just again. So this area in front door is existing. This rectangle part here would become a new section, and then the deck would also be of the new section.
All right. Thank you for that rapid presentation. What I'll do is I'll look to Denise and Grace to see if there are any members of the public that have any comments on this submission. I'm looking myself and I don't see any hands raised.
Yeah, I see no hands raised.
Like, sometimes don't want to assume. It's never a smart idea. So that being said, seeing no public comments, what we'll do is we'll see if any members of the ARB have any questions or comments on this. Obviously, for ARB members, you can raise your hand, signify through the waving your hand at me if I can see you. I can't see everybody, remember that. And I guess while I'm waiting to see if there are any members that have any comments or questions, so we got a lot of emails about this, and my understanding is that this was something that was intended to be submitted for last month, correct?
Correct. I think we missed 2 months ago, and then we missed last month.
Okay. And Mr. Plumpy, you have your hand up.
Yes, hi. Andy, my name is Joe Plumpy. I'm the landscape architect on the board here. And I have a question. Did you have someone help you select the plants? Or you just said, hey, I went to the catalog, I like this, how it looks, and so forth? I was just curious because some of those plants you've selected will be high maintenance if you want to keep them to a certain size. As of, for instance, the willows themselves, they can go almost as 15 feet high. But they can be kept small, so it'll be a maintenance chore for you to keep it small. And I think you had some arborvitae shown. Is that correct, or something? I thought you did some in your pictures. Yeah, those arborvitae right there. Those are those the green giant ones?
Yes, they are.
Okay, the green giant will get 15 feet in diameter at the base and go 30 feet tall. So, and that's tough to keep pruned back. So you may want to rethink your landscape to make it so that it's not a maintenance nightmare and also a inhibiting factor to enjoy your deck is the other key thing. And I would recommend, don't plant them. They're small now, but you got to think of the future. I think you could do a more simpler planting scheme. Your plant choices are your plant choices. I just wanted to overwhelm the house eventually because you are set up to do that right now at your current planting design. But I would suggest maybe some other plants that would be more manageable. I think your privet is fine and the red maple is fine, but I think the others you just may want to rethink. There's other plants out there. I would strongly recommend, since you're in a native area, so to speak, with the woods and all that, is to do native and non-invasive species. The willows don't fit that category 100%. The arborvitae are supposedly native and adapted native, but I think there's other plants that would be more conducive to do the same thing, but without breaking your back eventually in about 3 to 5 years. I don't know, maybe you're selling the house tomorrow. I don't know, but by the look of the construction of the deck, you're going to be there for a while and try to enjoy that deck. So just some thoughts. You may want to consult with one of your nursery local to you and not just go to Lowe's or Home Depot to pick up a plant, but try and go to like a Merrifield or something. I could give you a list of plants, but that's not my job tonight. My job tonight is to kind of just watch what you do so it doesn't take over your deck and your ability to enjoy the deck. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we do have the reason I picked the spotted or speckled willows or pickle. I forget the other name for them. Is we have one here on the corner that I think is about 4 years old. So I understand what you're saying is it every winter I usually do trim it down to almost a flat bush.
Yeah.
So then by spring or summer it's back to where it was the previous year. And then we've also used them here along we have actually here along the fence line and then here along our patio. And they are to the point where it's once they lose their leaves, and then in the wintertime I do. So I do understand where they're going to get big, but and then
sure thing. Okay, just want to make sure. And you mentioned you wanted screening. These are deciduous plant material. You may consider. That's why I have the arborvitae there. It's evergreen, but and the privet is evergreen to semi-evergreen. But enough about the plants. I think the deck is gorgeous in my opinion. I have no problem with that. But go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Plumpy. Any other ARB members with comments and/or questions? John, it seemed like you had your hand next to your face, so I wasn't sure if that was you with a comment or not.
Since you tagged me, I'll speak up. No, I communicated with Mr. Height about this project. Andy, sorry, we know each other, and he has made changes, including some supplemental material he submitted after the 2-week deadline had passed, but I'd encourage him to do so. And one of the things we discovered is with the deck, Fairfax County, from a building permit standpoint, doesn't care what a deck looks like. They only care what the structural members are. And so there's no requirement for the building permit to provide drawings. And so I explained that the Architectural Review Board review is different in that we have to look at what the finished product will have in terms of impact to the historic character of the property. And so, and Andy, thank you. You put together a nice set of drawings so we can all understand what you're proposing to do. But that's something that I did not know and something we learned. And I'll say that for the record so that people look at this presentation will know for the future that if you're doing a deck, it's not just what you need for building permit. Our requirements are somewhat different. Other than that, I think Andy has answered all the concerns that I had expressed to him when I first contacted him. And so I'm perfectly fine with the project as presented.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your help too.
All right. Thank you, John. I didn't mean to call you on that. I just saw the, thought it was a casual hand raise, you know, classy Holland Hill style. But thank you for all that input. Mr. Kalinsky, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, I'm willing to make a motion for approval.
All right. I have seen no other hands from any other members, so I would gladly entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 22-HOL-19 located at 7500 Elber Road, Alexandria, Virginia 22306, tax map 0933-16008 in the Holland Hills HOD for the proposed replacement of the existing wood frame deck with a new deck of Trex composite decking and Feeney cable rail as submitted and presented at the September 8th, 2022 ARB meeting. On review of the materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101-historic overlay districts.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Height.
Thank you.
With you for all the appropriate documentation information following this meeting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's time.
No problem. All right. That concludes our first item. That takes us on to our second one. Let's see. That is ARB 2022 SP 002 4957 Brooks Forest Drive Garage Edition located at 4957 Brooks Forest Drive, Fairfax, Virginia. The applicant is proposing to create a symmetrical interior elevation to accommodate a garage addition without altering the historic portion of the house. Background, this application comes to us as a result of a proffered development condition, and this was here previously with us for a workshop item. This one is being presented by Mr. Jim Savagas. And I just saw your name pop up on my screen. So hopefully we'll be able to switch to the presentation information to you. And what I would suggest, Mr. Savagas, is hopefully you can, yep, there you go. I can see and hear you. Since we've seen you before for a workshop, I would just focus on what's changed since we last saw you. And
oh, great. Thanks. Thank you. Good evening. So I have the mini presentation, which was similar to what we went through our workshop. But what's different this time around is based on our meeting and our comments from the workshop, I actually uploaded some floor plans as we would submit for the county building permit so that you could see what we were proposing and also a breakdown of the materials which are listed on the plans themselves. So with that, I'm not sure I'm able to.
So Mr. Savages, if you look at, I think it would be the bottom of your screen, there should be 4 buttons, mute, start video, and then a share button. And it has a box with an arrow.
Yes.
So if you click on that.
It opens up another window, says open system preferences.
Open system preferences. It should give you some options, some different window options that you can, and whatever you're presenting should be one of those options.
I don't see that. I have them on my desktop, but I'm not able to see it. So
you don't see them in there.
No.
Grace, can you pass me the presenter mode for a moment?
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, if Denise has your presentation, she can pull it up for you.
Okay. Okay.
And I have all of your documentation if there are PDFs that you wanted to share as well.
Excellent. I think those will probably be the most helpful. The presentation itself is going to be semi-redundant. It just you would see some new drawings
Okay.
at the end of that. But yes, the other items would
So-
have
Is there a
changes.
particular one you'd like, Denise?
Right, yep. Mr. Savages, is there, what would you like to start with?
So I think we could start with the presentation. We
Okay.
could go through the slides fairly quickly,
Okay,
and then we could kind of look at the PDFs.
okay. All right, so here we go.
All right.
Okay.
Walk us through this and we'll.
Yes. So if we could continue on to the next one. This is just the inclusion of the items that are there that we talked about last time, the subdivision proffer to add this 3-car garage, where it would be located, and that the elevation would closely match the left side of the building without modifying the center portion of the historic part of the house. Next one, please. So this is an existing photo of the house. The proposed addition would go to the right, this side where you're seeing now. Correct. Next one, please, Denise. It would be right there where you see the column at the end. So that roof line would be raised to match the bedroom addition or wing that's on the other side. And then the garage would be butting up to that. Next one, please. These are just interior photos showing the additions. This is the one to the left is the kitchen addition. The picture to the right is the dining room addition, which is in front of the building. The garage would clearly go on the side of the kitchen. So this is showing the other side of the home. This is the bedroom addition. So that the main body of the house in the center has been encapsulated by all these additions, and since been wrapped with hardy plank siding, new vinyl replacement windows, 3-tab shingle roof, and maintenance-free trim. Next one, please. These were photos from the baseline when we submitted or during the subdivision, showing the various elevations. Next one, please. Just a copy of the proffer. I think we looked at the workshop about the subdivision layout itself, where this house is. It's lot number 9, highlighted. Next one, please. These are some of a sample of the new homes that are being built now. So far, since we spoke last, they had just started the subdivision. They now have 5 of the new homes already up, with families scheduled to move in the next 2 weeks. Next one, please. This is a street view. This is lot number 10 that you're seeing under construction, and the gray siding house you could see through the trees on the back of that is lot number 9, our home. Next one, please. So this is an existing front and both side elevation. To the right is the proposed. You could see the reverse gable on the right side, which would closely match the existing gable on the left. And then the garage addition there to the right side. And then you could see the side elevations, the garage doors. And I think we spoke about this at the workshop. This side, the right side where the garage is proposed, backs up to sort of common area. It's all wooded trees. So the garage doors and the driveway would not be exposed from the street or any of the neighbors, the way the house is situated. Next one, please. Existing again and proposed a rear elevation. So you could see where the fireplace is to the right on the existing photo with the reverse gable going up. The left side is the kitchen addition, which is about a little over 3/4 of the way up. So we're basically, that roof line is increased a few feet to match the right side, and then the garage addition would be obviously below that or lower. And you can see the floor plans. It's very small, but the floor plan on the proposed is below. And that was one of the PDFs in larger format, so we could see the dimensions if you had any questions about the size, as well as there's some outlines of The siding would be hardy plank to match, 3-tap shingle, et cetera. So it would be whatever is existing would also go on the proposed addition. Next one, please. And this is just a quick summary of the material, which is also noted on the plans. And I believe that's the last slide of that proposal.
All right, were there any particular plan documents you wanted to show us, or do you think that, I mean, we received them all, so we could go to comments and questions unless you feel like there's one particular one you want to talk about in specifics?
No, I believe that's that was the crux of it. The rest would just be if we wanted to get into any specific dimensions, overall length of the house and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I will open it up for if there are any public comments. Obviously, we'll look to see if anyone's got their hand up in the participant section. Denise, I know you were presenting before, so you might not be able to see that, but Grace or Denise, I don't see anyone raising their hand at this moment, but.
No, not, yeah, neither, yeah.
All right. Well, then, with that in mind, I think I will look to membership if they have any comments or questions for Mr. Savagas. I know we had several members that had questions about the plans and documents last time. I'll just throw out there that in particular, I think the floor plans were very helpful, particularly because it showed me where the original historic structure is, which is literally buried inside the middle of this thing.
Correct.
But are there any members that have comments or questions on this application? I can now see you all on camera too, so if you don't raise your hand in chat, I can see you raising your hand. All right, Mr. Kalinsky.
Just a question for the applicant. Are these the permit drawings that are going to be submitted to the county?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble following along where some of the connections and
So a couple of the PDFs
old
were actually showing the roof truss, yeah, or the roof lines as well as the floor plan. So there should be 6 or 7, I believe, PDFs, and that would be all of the structural drawings that would be submitted to the county for the permit.
and just the area where the existing dining room transitions into the new 2-story portion. Is a portion of the existing dining room to be removed as part of this?
No, I apologize. The dining room would stay the same size. There is a portion to the right of the dining room. There's what appears to be a little nook now, if you will, when you look at the existing elevation. The kitchen door is set back. That's the portion that would be encapsulated with the garage. So in other words, from the garage, you would enter that area to get to the kitchen. So the dining room would stay the same.
Okay, so when I look at the existing front elevation, there's a triple door into the dining room.
Correct.
And what is happening? Is that door staying or is that being removed?
Those are 3 fixed door panels in lieu of operating windows. So 2 of those would be staying. The one to the right, the third one, would be removed because the framing, obviously, for the gable is going to be there. But the dining room inside will maintain. It would be the same size. That exterior wall would not change. It's just that door would be removed and the siding would cover that area.
So the new windows on the, let's say the new 2-story wing, are the window heights the same, or the head height of the window the same as the existing 2-story bedroom wing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't find a dimension to tell me that. And it appears visually, at least on my screen, that they're a little bit higher. Trying to.
Yes, I understand. So those, yeah, it should be 4/4.
Okay.
What's the name of the document that we're looking at, and I can share it? That might be helpful for everybody else to follow along.
It says I'm looking at sheet number A1.
Thank you.
Which would be file name Westwood proposed front right left elevations. in the files you gave us. If that makes sense to me.
Is this right? A1?
No, this is the
No.
existing elevation as the house is currently.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I think that may be part of the confusion here. I have another sheet A1 that has different drawings on it.
Right, left elevations 2. How about that one?
Yes, that's the one we're looking for, Denise.
Okay,
I'm
thank
pretty
you.
certain that's the one that
Yes.
Mr. Polinsky is talking about. Is that the one you were talking about, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So just so you know, I'm not weighing in one way or the other about the appropriateness of the addition. I'm just, I'm looking at these drawings and there was a lot of confusion to me as to what was happening in some of the areas. They seem rather incomplete for a Fairfax County permit submission.
Yeah, no, understandable. I mean, if you were to blow that up the larger version, you could see a little closer, but those two windows that you see on the main level are the exact same windows as on the left-hand side. We were trying to create some symmetry without exactly duplicating it. In other words, we had a version with 4 windows, 2 on top, 2 on the bottom, and it just kind of looked like a Days Inn motel. So we did a double window up on top and have 2 windows on the main level. So as you look across the front, the facade would be the same. So those windows are the same. They're 4 over 4.
I think I see, though, what Mr. Kalinsky is talking about. Steve is talking about the fact that the windows on the addition are not aligned with the rest of the windows. If you look at is that what you're talking about, Mr. Kalinsky?
They appear to be higher than the windows on the left-hand side, and that's a little disconcerting. I do think the variation in the the second floor windows is helpful to alleviate the concern about it looking like I use the applicant's term Days Inn. So I'm not critiquing the design here so much as I'm just having trouble understanding all of it. These drawings seem to be somewhat incomplete in terms of notes and detailing and dimensioning. And
And I don't know if I could respond to that in any way to make you feel more comfortable, other than if you look to the left of that drawing, the extreme left where the existing bedroom elevation is, there are notations there in dimensions of the height of the first floor and the second floor. Correct, in that area. So, and as you can see, the elevation of the ground there, we're almost level with the ground. As you get towards the right side of the building, the elevation falls off quite a bit. And so that may be visually what's throwing that off, showing that the windows may be being up higher, but they will be at the same baseline level and there would be the same height.
So ultimately, the concern with the say level of detail in the drawings comes down to your intent may be there, but the guy in the field's not necessarily going to know what to do, and he's going to go based on his choice, and that may not always match the existing details. There's nothing saying match the existing heights or existing window styles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just kind of just says existing kitchen, new addition. Nothing calls out the size of the trim boards, whether you want to call out the size or have them match the existing house. There seems to be a fair amount of information missing that would have to be assumed by whoever's building this, and oftentimes when I've seen that happen, it ends up in being completely mismatched. So that's my concern in trying to understand all that's going on and how this thing's going to be built. These drawings just don't going to say, kind of secure that. And if we approve something and there's nothing on there saying what it needs to be or what it needs to be held to, what standard, then we end up with something that won't necessarily be built properly, and then it's hard to come back and say that's needs to be adjusted, or that needs to be done right.
Yeah, no, I understand the comment and I do appreciate it. However, there's a great deal of energy and monies and expense and effort that's going into this in order to maintain it and have it something, I guess, presentable and that would stand the test of time, as opposed to just slapping a garage at the end of the building. And so I understand what you're saying, and it does make a lot of sense. And you're right, maybe a notation for our presentation, our sense, showing that the trim boards be a 1x4 to coordinate with the rest of the house. But everything that's being done to the right side of the building needs to match and will match what's on the entire rest of the building, and everything is brand new. When I say brand new, within the last 10 years or so, when the original wood siding had rotted, and we had since then replaced it with hardy plank. So it wouldn't make any sense as a homeowner or, well, as the homeowner, to allow somebody just to slap up a 1x6 or 1x12 trim boards, for example, around the windows and have it look like a hodgepodge addition, especially when we're going through all this this energy and time to make sure that we sort of create some symmetry and have the house conform, if you will, within the newer ones, to not stand out and be out of place, but at the same token, preserve it for a long period of time, as to not have any issues down the road. But I hear what you're saying, and I think they're good comments, but there's no way as the property owner that I would allow something to, on the right-hand side, be so dramatically different from the rest of the building, just for the sake of saying, I hear you, I'm trying to pacify you so I can get the approval. That's not my intention at all. I want this to kind of to be in the record books, if you will, for a very long time, understanding that the elements on the outside that we're using are not affecting any part of the historic nature of the house, which is on the inside of the siding in the center of the building. So I don't know for what all that's worth, but yeah, it wouldn't be in my interest, and it would not behoove to have something really stand out like a
I
sore
think,
thumb.
Mr. Samagas, what Mr. Klinsky is forecasting for you, and I'm not an architect, so I'm an architectural historian, so I just document and take care of what they make, is that some of the pieces that might be needed as the building permit process goes forward seem to be a little weak or deficient in some of these areas here. Not that we don't recognize the intent you're proposing, but you may need to be prepared for that if the ARB does approve this with potentially conditions indicating that that's what we're anticipating seeing, that you may get pushback through the building permit side. I am not an expert in how architectural plans are reviewed by the county building permit side, so I would assume, I don't even have to assume, I imagine Mr. Klinsky knows it far better than I do, being an architect,
Unfortunately, yes.
architect. But so these are just kind of us shedding light on a few things that you as well might want to keep in mind, and from these comments definitely take forward to your contractors to have denoted on your plans when they go forward, so that you get exactly what you're looking for.
Yes, understood. And as the homeowner and also the acting as a general contractor on my behalf through Cardinal Builders is who's going to be doing this. I can tell you for certain that going into the county for the building permit, they're not going to focus on the detail of the trim. However, it's very important to me, so that's something that I will. And if it makes the committee feel more comfortable, I certainly would have no objection with making that notation on the approval and or coming back to you with a finished product at the end. It's not my intent to have right side of the building look hideous compared to the rest of it.
Understood. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve, if you had anything more to add. I just
No, it's and there. I don't want to belabor the point, but I mean, I didn't see a foundation plan, at least not in the items I downloaded off the county server when they first became available. So, unless that thing has changed. Yeah.
There should be a PDF called Westbrook Proposed Roof Plan with tray ceiling elevation.
Wait, before we leave this, okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Orr.
That the elevation, we're so, I mean, within each little segment, it's very balanced until we get to those double doors. And it just, because they're not centered below that window above and they're not centered in that space. And I know you're just closing in one, but it seems like you could slide, I mean, maybe not in plan, I don't know, but that is bothersome to me that they aren't centered in their segment because, we are a slave to it with all these different elements and that one, and also because it doesn't have grids, it really stands out. So can you move that door over and center it underneath the window above?
It can be moved over. I don't know if it can be moved over enough to where it's centered, but it can boom over. We have about 2 feet, I believe, from that door to the left.
And because the window above is existing, correct?
Correct. That's in the bedroom above.
I don't know, 2 feet might help. Anybody, is that driving anybody else crazy?
Again, I'm not an architect in this situation, but this is an interesting one because the proffer requires this building to come to us, and in reality, we're preserving the shell or armor around a historic property. So, from an architectural historian perspective, I'm kind of neutral on the whole situation because we're not damaging the building at the core of it. So, with the proffer's sake, from my perspective, we are being consistent with what the proffer is asking for. But from a design perspective, I leave that to my betters on what might look a little better. Yeah, the door looks a little different with it being asymmetrical, but at the same time, symmetry is not everything. So that's I don't want to try to design the exterior of the house here. So that's from my perspective, just as one of your architectural historians, I'm more concerned about that floor plan showed me exactly what I needed to see. There's the property we were charged for the proffers in protecting.
Okay.
Kay, I agree. I agree with you, but I'm going very light on my critique as to what's appropriate and what's not in this situation. I think there's a very broad, acceptable realm that we could work with, as long as it's just not damning to the original historic portion. So
Okay.
My concerns merely stem from the fact that usually we require a complete architectural submission set, and there's just so much that I see missing from here, and up through and including like lateral brace wall requirements. There's just a lot of items that are, if they're on there, they're not clearly shown, and I could see portions of the submission that would be missing. It's just that we hold everybody to that standard of,
Right. That's right.
I'm just trying to be fair throughout.
Right. That's right.
Okay, I don't know if you have any other comments. I was going to look to see if there were any other members that had any other comments too. If you're done,
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other members that have comments, questions?
Chris, this is John.
By all means, John.
Okay, you said you could see us, but
I can only see a small smattering of people at any given time.
Okay.
The screen shared. Sorry there, John.
Okay, not a problem. A couple of comments. One is you mentioned that you didn't want to have a precise match, and you changed the window configuration on the second floor of the addition. And I applaud that because you don't want to create a false sense of symmetry that was never there historically. And with regard to the two large fixed panel pieces, those are existing parts of the house. I don't think there's anything in our guidelines that says you have to restore something to get our approval. And if you were to go back and put a window that more closely matched the other windows in the house, you'd be creating a false sense of history and something that's not historic. So I'm not bothered by that. It's just an anomaly in the house. It's part of its historic it's part of its history is being demonstrated by those two windows. And so I don't object to that. But if I could go back to Mr. Kalinsky's earliest comment on this, is that the lack of detail about what you're trying to match and what you're trying to differentiate in these drawings gives your contractor the ability to interpret your intent. And I think the degree to which you can be very specific, either in writing or notes on the drawings for the contractor, about what you actually want, I think you'll be better off in the long run. It might meet the county permit requirements, but it might not meet your aesthetic intent of what you're trying to achieve here. So it's if anything, it's better to over stipulate what exactly you want if you want to try and match something. It's helpful to be give the information in more detail. Those are my only comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. And I'll observe to members that when you look at the zoning ordinance for our submission requirements, we actually do have a great deal of latitude. The ARB may require the submission of any or all of the following. We have a list of 11 items. We have a very elusive may there, so that does give us flexibility to accept certain things as long as if we feel we've conditioned them appropriately in a way that we feel that that's adequate. So the problem we run into is we have our guidelines that may say one thing, but then the ordinance says another. And so we have various different documents that we vie with. So I think there have been some really valuable points brought up about some things that need to be denoted in the plans. One option would be to condition that those things be added contingent upon our approval. It seems like the applicant is amenable to those, as well as even sliding a door by 2 feet to try to create a little bit more symmetry. That all seems things that folks would be willing to do, whether or not they're things that we would be asking for. But I'm just throwing that out there as observations as the chair here. That being said, if there aren't any other members who have comments, I'm scrolling through the cameras to see if anyone's waving their hands feverishly.
Can I just ask Mr. Daniel, I don't see a sheet A3 in any of my presentation materials. Is there a sheet A3 that we could be brought up on the screen here? That may answer some of my questions and it may alleviate my concerns, but
Sure, I would have to ask the applicant. Is there a sheet A3?
On the PDF attachments?
We got 2 A1s and an A2.
I'm looking for it. No. The second floor and the foundation plan. Are you seeing that one?
I'm seeing a proposed roof plan on your screen.
That's on Denise's screen.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think, I'm looking at the plans that were provided to us, I'm not seeing one labeled foundation plan.
So I was going to say, yeah, there you go. There's, that one is
Roof.
proposed roof, correct, with a trace, and that has actually the cross section of the building section itself, walls, footings, roof truss. And I believe that one may be having the foundation or the first floor proposed plan.
I do not see second floor plan, which I has been trying to locating them, but from the folder downloaded, I see 3 first floor plan.
So there's a proposed roof plan by itself.
And that's A4.
Mm-hmm. And then there is the one that's pulled up on the screen now that also shows existing roof, the bedroom wing, and the trusses, headers, etc. on the addition, the garage addition. And then further down on the same page is the building cross section showing footers. And
I think Mr. Kalinsky's point is that the numerical sequence there's a sheet A1, a sheet A2, and a sheet A4, which implies there's a sheet A3. and then it's not in the set that we've received. I think that's what he's getting at. It seems to be a sheet missing, as it were.
And that may be the sheet that has a lot of information that settles this, but I just don't have access to it.
And I don't believe there's a sheet there that sort of addresses the exterior trim, window size anywhere. So the foundation, the cross section of the building, the roof trusses, supporting walls, obviously all that is shown. But there isn't anything specific about the cosmetics in nature.
I guess I would get to the same question that Mr. Burns was supposed to. Is there supposed to be a sheet A3 that we are missing from that set of plans that you have that?
I don't believe so. I want to say because of the numerations, the various what if scenarios that we played around with, I think something got mismatched. But what I've uploaded are the sheets that would actually be presented to the county for building permit review and approval. So I think that's more of a misnumbering from our friends at Cardinal who provided me the plans.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Zellman.
the only thing I can add, and maybe I'm missing something, is at least from the numbering sequences, if there's two A1s, maybe one of them's supposed to be A3. Obviously, I don't know that, but that's a possibility as to the misnumbering if they're missing.
And I thought that too, Mr. Zellman. That might be a potential circumstance we'd be running into here.
Is the contractor the one that's going to be going for the permit?
Yes.
Yeah, he's withholding drawings. That's what's going on because there's a lot missing.
When you say a lot missing, what are you saying? That
Structural, there's a lot of structural stuff missing. The county's going to require a lot more, but they know that. So, but anyway.
Your new first and second floor framing is missing. Your foundation plans are missing.
The wind loading, yeah.
The entire second floor plan is missing.
Right.
which one? The entire which one?
Second floor plan. We have a first floor plan, but no second floor plan.
Second floor plan. So I'm seeing the second floor plan on the building cross section, and let's see, there was one other one that was also on the same page. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. And that would be, it says Westbrook proposed second and foundation plan. Do you show that one?
That wasn't part of our submission materials. Is that something that you have, Denise?
No, I do not have a foundation plan.
Actually, I apologize. I think I'm causing my own stress issue and a lot of undue stress. I just saw that page and it is marked A3. So somehow that did not get uploaded, and I'm looking at it in front of me and it says sheet number A3. So
is that something, are you able to share it all? You work that out and we could help you out by seeing it?
Is there any way I can get it to share, or?
Grace can try to give you that again. Like Denise said, down in the bottom of your screen, ideally, there should be 3 buttons. One that says mute, stop video, and another one that says share content.
Correct. And here we go. It was grayed out.
Testing the presenter privileges now, so you should see it very soon.
Okay. And as I click the share button, it says allow WebEx to share your content, open system preference. And when I open that, it goes into, hold on, let's see, desktop and screensaver. No.
I see your hand there, Mr. Plumpy. Is that a legacy hand, or did you have a comment? I know we've been going a little long in the tooth in this, and I think if we can't reconcile this, we may. I think you heard that we are in support of the general proposal, I think we need a set of consistent plans for us to be able to approve it. And it would sound like if we can address this with the plan you're going to pull up, we might be okay, because that could be for the record. But otherwise, I think this might be something that would have to be a consent or something. But Joe, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Chris. There, yes, you read my mind. I was thinking, since we have some incomplete information, like you said, if this drawing solves it, great. If not, maybe perhaps he needs to come back one more time with effort submitted in fully to Denise to distribute before the next meeting. Just a thought. That's all. Thank you.
A quick question. Am I able, Denise, am I able to email this to you?
Sure, but sure, if you'd like to try to email it to me right now.
Exactly.
Sure.
I just didn't know, in the interest of time, if that wouldn't be faster.
That would be up to the chair.
I'm going to say something I'm never going to say. It's highly irregular.
So it's just been sent over. So Denise, it should be in your inbox as we speak. Oops.
Denise, do you have it?
It hasn't appeared yet.
All right. It just left from my end, so it should be in your inbox.
I do think Mr. Plumpy's point is well heard, though, Mr. Salagas, that it's possible that if this doesn't completely answer the questions, it might be that we would want you to come back and submit the full package that we can fully condense and understand together, because it seems like some of the pieces were disconnected. And it's possible that could be something that could be even done as a consent item, that if that answers all the questions, that's something we could, as you see, we normally have a consent calendar item if that addressed our concerns. Let's see, Denise is sharing. All right, there's sheet A3.
So what's shown above is the second floor, and below is the foundation plan.
I think in particular, Denise, if you can zoom in on that smaller text under the garage, because that's going to be the harder thing for all of us to read. The due on the ground floor of the foundation. Perfect. Yeah, you're getting in a little easier to read there.
Perfect, Denise. Thank you. All right, Mr. Daniel, I mean, I'm not entirely comfortable, but I'm a lot more comfortable with what I see. I see what's indicated as a concrete foundation, but nowhere on there does it call out concrete. There's some things I think that need to be rectified, but I don't think that's enough for us to hold up Mr. Suvagas, on this. I just think we need to be consistent in receiving our applications and making sure that it's a proper presentation. We've spent a lot of time, not so much debating the merits of this, but should this go forward based on what we require of other people? So I see what's there, and I think if there's some way we can condition that, that based on what we've seen, assuming that the construction documents are a complete set submitted to the county, that we would, offer our approval on this.
Well, Mr. Kalinsky, I would say you are the most prepared, if there are no other members that have comments, to potentially craft a motion on that.
I was hoping Mr. Zellman would jump in over top of me. Okay. So,
to be honest, Steve, my only holdup is I trust the architects more on that end of things.
So let me go ahead and make a motion. I feel like a motion hog tonight. Mr. Chairman, I move that the AARB approve action item ARB 2022-SP-002 located at 4957 Brook Forest Drive, Fairfax, Virginia 22030, tax map 0552-27009 in the Springfield Supervisory District for the proposed addition of a 3-car garage to the historic Woodman House as submitted and presented at the September 8th, 2022 ARB meeting, subject to the following conditions: that the documents presented are, let me say, improved upon for the permit submission to the county, and that what we see as intent is carried through on the actual final construction documents. And upon review of the materials, the proposal is then found to meet the requirements of the proper development condition from the rezoning and final development plan, RZ FDP 2007-SP-013.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Zellman. Considering it was a long time, is there any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Burns.
may I offer a friendly amendment? Can we stipulate in the condition that the applicant must submit the complete set of drawings before the ARB administrator can approve it?
Mr. Kalinsky, is that acceptable to you?
That's acceptable to me.
And Mr. Zellman is the seconder.
Also acceptable.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burns. We have a motion with a friendly amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
And Ms. Orr is abstaining, so one abstention. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Savagas. Again, I would get with Denise. She is the ARB administrator, and she will be able to. She will need to be in receipt of all those materials to give the final stamp of approval when they come through.
Understand. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. All right. Takes us onward to our next item, ARB 22 HOL 20 7401 Rebecca Drive, addition repair. The applicant is proposing to add a two-story auxiliary structure to the adjacent to, but separate from the existing structure, to expand their east deck, construct a west deck, as well as expand an existing patio area. The structure is going to be screened. It's going to support garden equipment. This one has been to us before of a workshop, if I remember correctly. And looking at the applicants, I know for certain because I remember them. So Robin Roberts represents the application.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before this starts, I neglected prior to action item number 1 to read my
Just thought of it too.
required
I was going to remind you.
disclosure. Yes, okay. If with your indulgence of the ARB, I will read it now.
Please.
Okay. I, John Burns, under Virginia Code Section 2.2-3112 B1 and 2.2-3115H, declare my personal interest in transactions brought before the Architectural Review Board involving the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District, and specifically state the following for the September 8th, 2022 ARB meeting. 1. Action items ARB 22-HOL-19 7500 Elba deck replacement and ARB 22-HOL-20 7401 Rebecca Drive edition, and workshop item ARB 22-HOL-21 WS 1901 Paul Spring Road Student Edition involve the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. 2. The nature of my personal interest is that I own and reside in a home that is valued at over $5,000 and is located in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District. 3, I am a member of a group of 3 or more persons who are members of which are affected by the transaction. And 4, I am able to participate in the transaction fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Now back to the Roberts. Welcome back. For your presentation. If you have one, obviously Grace can give you the ability to present. We've seen your proposal before, so obviously only need to stick to any of the major changes, but hopefully you can hear us well and see us well.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask that if we need to, do a synopsis on the prior presentation or others that may not have been part of the original workshop, or we could just go on to the issues, whichever way you would prefer.
I think you could go just right on to the issues. We've had the package and everything. So
Okay.
for the sake of the hour that we're at, and your patience with the last application, by all means, tell us where the changes have, and if there's a presentation you need to display, let us know. We'll give you the ability to share.
Okay, let's see. Yep, I've got it right here.
All right, and you can see your screen.
So what I did was to go right to the south elevation, which it's easier to see it this way than in the architectural construction drawing elevations. But we had three, I believe, just three issues that were mentioned. One was the exterior finishes on the garden storage portion, the lower portion of the addition, and then the window treatments of that same elevation, and then the overall height limitation of 20 feet from the highest point on the accessory structure roof line to the lowest point on the foundation wall. So let's see, if I go to the southeast corner. So the material during the workshop for the storage garden storage area, we hadn't really defined very specifically. And we did take a look at two options. One was to replicate the brick of the existing at the base level of the existing house, or to use a hardy board system that would reflect the idea of the masonry base. Let's see, you can get a little bit of the brick over here and back here. So we are looking to give a suggestion of brick coursing with the hardy board, rather than just doing it duplicate with the brick. We tried the brick, and I was actually surprised that the hardy board looked better than the brick. And apparently the hardy board system on frame rather than concrete block and brick is a more economical approach to take, for the addition. So that was one of the issues. The other was the window treatment for these windows, and I think in the earlier solution had the window going all the way back to the other corner. We ended up needing to provide the arrangement here because of structural reasons. So it actually worked out better. This post, this column here, goes all basically down to the lower level. So we really needed to split that window at that point anyway. So that worked out visually. And then the third was the overall height of the from this corner to the peak of the overhang on the butterfly roof. I think we were off by 8 inches and 10 inches. It's 21 foot, 20 foot, 10 inches. So what we did was we were able to modestly rework the grade at this one corner, and we were able to pick up that 10 inches. So we kind of took care of those three issues. And that's the west or the east elevation. And then the south. So I think if there's anything else that you all may have questions about it, we certainly can answer that. But I think those are the issues from the last workshop.
All right. What I'll do first is ask if there's any member of the public that has a comment on this application. If they raise their hand, indicate in the chat. It's *3. Denise, Grace, we'll check. See if anyone has done so. I'm checking as well. I do not see any raised hands at this time.
I don't see any either.
Yeah, neither do I.
All right, so there doesn't appear to be any comments from members of the public. So with that in mind, thank you for the summary of all the changes that were made. I'll look to see if there were any members of the ARB that had comments they wanted to make. Scanning to see if there are hands up.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Ward.
Sorry, my video isn't working right now. I know that hardy board needs, what, 6 inches to grade? And I'm wondering, so we see a little peak of the corner down here that, yes. So won't that continue up at an angle as well, that dark?
Yes, yes. It will. I think there are. Let me see if there's a.
So is that parged and painted black or?
Let's see if details. Sections, screen porch.
Right.
Yeah, so I think this would be the detail. Bottom of the board.
Right.
Flashing, and then the hard surface.
So that's going to be a black, that'll be black.
Yeah, this is on the uphill side of the storage area, and it's block. So they say waterproofing, drainage. Yeah, it looks like the concept is here, but it's not quite figured out.
Okay, because the picture doesn't really show that, so I just want to make sure that was.
Yeah, I think these images, they haven't changed too much since the last time, a little bit, but as they keep telling me, Robin, we can keep on adding hours on this. I say, okay, we can explain everything else. The details, I think, really kind of tell the story. But we just received these 2 weeks ago to send in the application, and they're continuing to be finessed in order to pick up some of those details that aren't quite working. They're close, but they're not quite there yet. But I think this little margin will follow the grade. And in this case, I could say that the way the topo is coming down here would actually is going to have to grade back.
Right.
So those kind of things I still have to redline the drawings and get some modifications taken care of.
Anything else from you, Ms. Orr?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other ARB members? Hey, Mr. Kalinsky, I see you.
You're afraid to call on me, aren't you?
No. I only get to see a little reel of hands, so that's part of the problem. Is I have to scroll down.
Let me just quickly say to this applicant, thank you. This is the sort of level of detail that you put
Yes.
into this is exceptional, and let me say it's probably even a little more than we need to move beyond. The design is wonderful. I mean, this whole project is very well done, very well presented, and you know, this is where I'm sorry for slowing us down on the last one, but the last one didn't even touch upon what you've done here in terms of the presentation and the detail. So it's an excellent project. I can't wait to approve it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kalinsky.
I've been down this road a lot. I am a registered architect, and I always appreciate the gap, understanding the gap between what's not on a drawing and what the contractor can interpret it for you, and change orders that are promoted by that gap. And so closing it, or getting as close to closing it as possible, is always the goal. So
Since I'm not seeing any other members raising their hands or waving at me feverishly on their cameras, I'm going to agree with Mr. Kalinsky. I think this is a very elegant addition design, and I think it's sensitive to the historic structure. And I think this is, as presented, as pointed out by Mr. Kalinsky, this is you're giving us a great deal of information, maybe even more than we probably needed, but it's really explains the entirety of the project, and perhaps that's helpful, in particular given the properties we're working with here in Holland Hills. So I agree. I'm happy to see. I'm going to be happy to see it move forward, and can't wait to see it completed.
thank you.
Any other ARB members that have any comments? Again, I'm scrolling through. If any of you have your hands up, I see none. If we're seeing none, then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Zellman.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the ARB approve action item ARB 22-HOL-20, located at 7401 Rebecca Drive, Alexandria, Virginia, 22307, tax map 0933040244A in the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District, for the proposed addition of a two-story ancillary structure, which includes an upper-level screen porch and lower-level storage room with modifications and expansions. The existing decks and patios is submitted and presented at the September 8th, 2022 ARB meeting. Upon review of materials, the proposal is found to meet the requirements of zoning ordinance 3101 historic overlay districts.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
I'll give it to Kay.
all right. I was going to say it was tough to call. Seconded by Ms. Orr. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the presentation and look forward to hearing about how the project moves forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, that takes us out of our items for action and brings us into our singular item for workshop session. ARB 22 HOL 21 WS 1901 Paul Springs Road, a studio addition. This is a proposal for workshop for an addition to a studio at the rear of 1901 Paul Springs Road. Mr. Barry Williams presents the proposal. Mr. Williams, are you there with us? I see you on the screen.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, Daniel, for letting me, for inviting me today for the workshop session.
All right, are you presenting, or is there something you would like Denise to present?
I can share my screen if you like. I don't know if the committee members have had a chance to look at the materials that were provided. As I press share, it gives me open system preferences. So I'm just going to have to find.
We can have Denise bring up that package if you want. I know you gave us a pretty extensive 30-page
If you can give me less than 1 minute, I think it says I would have to quit the meeting to change the preferences. I think, let me just try this once more. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yes, so I apologize. I would have to exit the meeting and rejoin if I was going to change my sharing.
There's no problem. I'll share the power or the PDF. You'll just have to tell me to advance the pages.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Denise. The proposal that the project that I want to do at my home at 1901 Paul Spring is to make an addition to an existing accessory building that's located at the rear of the property. The accessory building is contemporary with the house, and what I would like to do is to add roughly 200 square feet to that existing accessory building. It's used as a music studio and to provide garden storage essentially, and so adding this space would give me some additional utility of that building. If Denise, if you could advance the pages. In this package, I've provided some details about the technical details about the site, the number of square feet existing and proposed, and how it complies with the setback. But if you can scroll forward a couple of pages to the photographs. Why isn't it loading?
While we're waiting on her to pull that up, I do have to say, Mr. Williams, I have to give you compliments on your workshop proposal package. It is probably the most professionally presented one I've seen in a while.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. It broke down the entire proposal as though you were making a proposal to us to build something on our property.
Oh, thank you. I would, it perhaps would be even better if you could see images, but I'm not sure what's going wrong with that. Ah.
Denise, I'm happy to try to share on my screen. I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I've run out of memory apparently.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Daniel. And thank you everyone for your patience. Yes,
all can see that. Yes.
Splendid. So if you would, if it would be okay if you would scroll forward a few pages to the photographs. This is a photograph of the existing studio. How it looks. It's as I mentioned, it's contemporary with the existing structure. It's self-standing. It doesn't include any plumbing or anything like that, but it does have mini split cooling and heating system and electricity. To the left-hand side of this photograph, you can see an existing garden shed. It's a pretty small amount of storage space. If you would mind scrolling, and you can see from this photo that the lot is a pretty heavily wooded lot. The photo from the other side sort of shows that I have to keep some of my tools outside at the moment, which is part of what I'm trying to clean up the view for my neighbors. And the studio just in general does require a little bit of renovation, so that would be part of it. But if you would scroll forward, again, this is a view from the side of the building. It has a brick wall on the north elevation. And if you continue to scroll through, there's a picture of the plat that shows the position of the accessory building at the back of the lot. It's not visible really from the street, and it complies with the 5-foot setback for accessory buildings that are between 8.5 and 12 feet in R2 lots in Fairfax County. So that's the existing. If you scroll through, there's a picture, a detail of kind of what the lot looks like today. And sorry, we're scrolling.
Keep going.
No. If you could go back.
Okay, sorry. I thought you wanted another picture. My apologies. There you go.
This image sort of shows where the addition to the studio would be. So it would be behind the existing studio, more towards the rear of the lot. If you go to the next page, this is the existing floor plan of the studio. I have a studio, some storage space, and a very tiny garden shed. If you go to the next slide, you'll see how the addition would be planned out. So there would be a small lobby, essentially sitting on the exact floor space of the current garden shed. and a new addition. And then the shed would be moved to the rear, to behind the lobby and access from the rear of the building. So it's kind of like there are two separate spaces of similar proportions. If you would, and this building, this image also shows the eaves. This is a picture of the main east elevation of the existing. And if you look at the next page, you'll see the proposed, which somewhat follows the design of the existing with a few small changes in detail to differentiate the historic from the new build. Some of those changes are making you still using much of the Goodman language, but using it in somewhat different ways to shrink the side eaves and to taper the projection in a way that reduces the mass of the new part of the building. But this slide also details that some of the the kind of finishes would essentially be the same as what's there existing, which is it's using tongue and groove siding. It would reuse some of the existing the existing door from the current studio. If you go forward through these slides, you can see that's the existing north elevation that you saw a photograph of before. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see how the new roof plane sits slightly below the existing plane, but on the same pitch as the existing building. The intention of that is to allow the new addition, even though it sits on the same plane, so it has a sort of, it's not completely coplanar because it's 6 inches lower. Therefore, it sort of allows it to be 6 inches less tall. So that's what that's trying to show. The next slide shows the existing rear elevation, and if you go to the next one, that's showing what it would look like from the back, which is that there would be a set of double doors accessing a shed area, pretty much using the same design as the existing shed, just turned around to the rear of that. If you advance the slides again, you'll see the same thing from the south elevation, the existing, and then the next slide, the proposed, showing that the new building stands forward slightly, and that's to do with the setback and the angle of the lot line that basically requires that I can't build anything that's in line with the existing structure. It has to be slightly set forward in order to deal with that 23-degree lot line that's behind that building. So that's what this slide is showing. Then the next pages, you can see a kind of side elevation of the existing, much like the photograph I showed before, and then this one, a side elevation, an angle elevation of perspective of the proposed as well, which I think perhaps best describes kind of what I would be trying to do. So keeping essentially a hyphen to differentiate the historic from the new addition, and using kind of color to differentiate the hyphen and link, but using pretty much the same language of design as the existing in a slightly different way. The reason this building doesn't have windows going down to ground level is because it's intended for use as a sound recording studio. So it really wants to have, for functional purposes, it would really want to have as few windows as possible. So it's only lit by clear story windows. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that's the same backside existing and proposed. So this would allow me some more storage space to get rid of some of the stuff that you can see from the rear of my property. And then if you go next slide, you'll see this is a northeast context with the existing house. So the existing house is a 1950 Type 2 Model 2 Goodman house with a 1990 addition, which has 2 stories. The studio sits slightly above the existing building, about 4 feet higher than the existing building, but it's much lower than the 2-story main side of the house. If you go to the next slide, you'll see how it would look with the studio. I mean, only to note that this whole back lot is thickly wooded, so you really can't observe this view from any angle, but it's just to show the overall scale of the house versus the studio and the proposed addition. Then the next slide, you'll see a view which is sort of from my driveway. If there weren't trees there, you would be able to see this from the street. This is as is, and then the next page, you'll see what it would look like from this angle. It's not really very visible, the additions, the proposed additions. And then lastly, the existing view from a kind of bird's eye from the back. Again, you can't really see this. My neighbor has something of a view of this, but not really. But this is kind of demonstrating the relationship of the studio and the house. And part of the idea of this studio, one of the sort of design ideas of moving the studio addition forward is it allows the creation of something of a small terrace, or the terrace actually already exists at the higher level, but it sort of creates an extra space in the yard. So this is what I have put together, and I'm grateful for your time in letting me present. I'm also grateful for your feedback and comments as I hope to advance this project. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. What I will do is look to see if there are any members with comments, questions, or observations. You might have to speak up because I'm going to just keep sharing for the moment being, since you all may have a question about a particular page, but I am going to try to cycle through all the faces I can see on my little tiny screen. Now I'm getting the full applicant experience.
There is nobody with their hand raised.
Oh, thank you, Grace. Well, what I'll say while members are thinking about it is I think similar to the one we saw before, I think this one's a very sensitive addition. I speak in my language when it comes to subordinate and hyphens, and you're actually doing something that is a little more subdued than the other existing studio. And the fact that the purpose you need it for is allowing you to reduce the amount of glass also actually just works in my mind to make it even more of a addition structure. So from the concept perspective, I don't really have a major concern there, but that's from my mind. So I'm liking what I'm seeing, but I'm curious if any other members or architects have any observations.
Mr.
Yep,
Chairman?
Mr. Kalinsky. Oh, sorry, and Samantha, I heard you speak. So if you did, go ahead.
I will go first. So I want to thank you for the applicant bring all this drawing here. I understand that the setback, so the massing was kind of offset, which is a really good move, and make the massing is much smaller compared to the main house. It's a very nice proportion. The proportion is very nicely done. How you determine the roof line, and they kind of offset a little bit and reinforce the idea you had. Those are all, I like what you done here. And I think the drawing is well prepared. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kalinsky.
Hi, Mr. Danny. This is a very well conceived idea. It's well presented. The challenge of the setback actually made for better architecture. I really have to commend Mr. Williams for his work on this. It looks really good, and I think it's totally appropriate. This is the sort of thing that fits well into this district, this historic district, as well as the neighborhood. I would encourage him to just continue to develop this and submit for approval.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kalinsky. Any other comments? Oh, John, I see your hand go up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I would second both Samantha and Steve's comments. So well conceived, well presented proposal. My recollection is that your lot adjacent to the west is actually a Civic Association land, a park that's recently been subject of a lot of regrading and environmental improvements. And the rear that faces that park is totally blank currently and will continue to be totally blank. And I was just wondering, had you given any consideration to some architectural treatment there for the rear of it, which actually just faces into that parkland? If you could go, Mr. Chairman, if you could go back to the rendering that shows looking downhill towards it, a little further, but oh, there's a photograph where it kind of looks,
Yeah.
where it's, the rendering is there.
I can talk a bit to that, John.
Yeah.
So I did think quite a bit about whether, it would be appropriate to turn around part of the structure and have it face the park. I mean, there are a couple of things with that. I mean, no, as I see it, no other accessory building that I'm aware of has a real elevation that kind of projects a real face to the park. I mean, I may be mistaken, but I think it would be something of an anomaly. I mean, and secondly, there is, as part of the county's plans, there will be a replanting of all of that area with woodland. Here's the view that I think John is sort of alluding to. Now, everything that you see in this photograph does still exist. Yes. So there are still trees behind the studio, and there will continue to be. And the county is going to replant with new trees. They're planting 6 foot kind of 6 foot specimens in the park. So it will be fairly thickly wooded. I could have asked, I had a discussion with the parks chair about, she actually offered that I could, have more or less trees behind there. So, it might be possible to turn it around, but I liked the idea of creating, more of a courtyard. The main photograph you see here, by having this other piece advanced forward, it sort of creates a little sort of space there. So I didn't feel like there was a need to have it really face the park. Sorry, that's a very long explanation for what you asked for, but I think what I'm saying is there is going to be quite a lot of screening woodland there still. And I think having enough storage space allows me to hide the wheelbarrow and other stuff that's currently on show to my neighbors, that I'm very keen to tidy up the look and make it look more architectural than than it currently looks. So
yes, thank you for that. I just wanted to mention that. Are you thinking of gutters on the lower edge of the slope?
So the current accessory building does not have any gutters. It just runs off. It has a 14-inch eave at the back. And the proposal, as I've written it, would be to not have gutters on the new part either. I mean, it may be the case that it's better to do that. But I think once you add a gutter there, then it requires then to have a downpipe that sort of, it then gets into a whole sort of slightly I don't know. There are ways to handle it, but it could end up being not very elegant. And I think the way it is now is it's quite simple, but it's elegant. It doesn't. I don't seem to have water issues at the back where it just runs off.
Right. If you don't have water issues, don't bother.
Right.
I was just mentioning that in case you mentioned you had to do some repair work. I was just wondering if water splash had caused the siding below the rear overhang to rot. And if
No,
it had, then you might
it's not
consider
really
it.
rot. It's the main issue is that they added the shed on the side later. With the original building has vertically mounted shiplap as a siding material, and the side addition, the small shed, currently has T111 siding, and where they join, they didn't do a great job of joining them because the shed was built as a shed, not very high high cost. So it's just not in that place. It just, I mean, the thing needs a lick of paint, but there's nothing structurally. There's nothing wrong with the existing studio, and aside from moving the door to the hyphen, I'm not planning to change it. I mean, it's basically staying completely as is, and that was, I really just love the proportions of the existing building, and I want to maintain it as much as possible without alteration. So that's the ethos of the proposal.
Okay, and then one last question I was just curious about is the underside of the east slope that projects out into the main part of the yard. There is a thickening underneath the edge of the roof, and I was just wondering, is that a structural thing, or
It is. So if you look at a house like there are a few houses like 2109 Paul Spring Road. If you were to Google that now, you would see the exact same type of eave. So the projecting eave is slimmed from 6 inches at the wall to as it projects 3 feet, it gets very thin at the end. But in order to carry the weight, there's this sort of a piece there. I think you can see it in a different picture a little bit better. If you were to advance the slides slightly, Daniel, 1, 2, keep going, and I'll say when to stop. I think you're going backwards, but sorry.
All right.
But this is a detail that does definitely exist on other. So keep going. And 1 or 2 more. 1 more. Yeah. So this is what it is. So the beams of the roof then this sort of detail allows the beams of the roof to be thicker, and it is a detail that was used by Goodman on other houses. It could be, it could be done differently. That front eave could not be, it needn't be tapered the way it is, the way I've designed it. I think it allows it to be a bit more differentiated and elegant this way. And this detail, it looks a little bit clunky, but like I say, if I was able to share my screen, I would share images of other Goodman houses. Like if you were to Google just 2109 Paul Spring Road and share a picture of that, you would see that has exactly the same detailing, and it's done on a number of his, not all of his houses, but it's a feature that's consistent with the language of that used in the neighborhood.
Right. We have seen a similar under support like that in recent proposals that have come before us, and the explanation that we were given or we were told was that the county requires those members to be deeper than Goodman's original design, which is why we're seeing it in contemporary overhangs in Holland Hills.
Oh,
but I was just wondered if that was the case here.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. This is not a response to something I've received from the county. This is an interpretation of other Goodman houses. He did this also, I guess, to carry the weight of some of his projections are 4 feet, and at the end of this eave, it's only 3 inches deep, so it really can't carry any weight. But this detail allows those beams, those roof beams, to be 5 inches at their where they terminate, and that allows it to carry the weight of snow or whatever. So
okay, like I will go back to what the original commenters were, as I think this is elegant and simplistic and sympathetic, and you have obviously read the guidelines that says the new work should be differentiated from the old, and you have done it in a subtle way. And just explained the rationale, and so I can't wait to see this come back. It should be an easy one next month.
Okay, great. It might take me a little bit more than a month to get the engineer's drawings in, but it'll come shortly. And thank you very much for all of your feedback. I'm really grateful for your insight and support. So.
All right. I don't see any other members of comments, but again, thank you very much, Mr. Williams. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the near future, not the immediate future. We'll give you a little more time. All right. That concludes our workshop session, and it takes us on to our presentations. We have an informational item presentation. Just to clarify, this is not an item for public comment. This is the informational presentation on the Homes Run Acres Potential Historic Overlay District. So we have staff, including our own ARB administrator, Ms. Dressel, as well as Sarah Bonish from EHT Traceries, presenting on the preliminary findings and draft design guidelines for the proposed plan amendment if it goes forward to establish another HOD. So Denise, I believe the floor is yours along with Sarah.
Thank you, Chris. I was waiting for I just got the share button.
Hopefully we've gotten your memory situation worked out by now.
Well, I went to a different application. I'm not using Adobe. I'm going to use Foxit and or whatever this is called.
Okay, well, we can see that.
Good. Just a little bit different. I don't know what's happening with my memory, but thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come and present the preliminary findings, staff's preliminary findings for the Historic Overlay District proposed for Homes Run Acres. Just quickly, introductions along with the team members, which were myself, Lily Yegazu, who is the principal planner in the Zoning Administration Division, Sarah Godfrey, who is the Communication Engagement Specialist for DPD, Sarah Vonish, who is here with me tonight from Traceries, and Traceries has done the design guidelines for the two newest historic overlay districts, as well as revisions to the older historic overlay districts that we've been considering. Grace Davenport, who is also here tonight, the Heritage Resource Planner 2, and Megan Riley, who I also believe is here tonight. I think I saw her in the list. She's the Heritage Resource Planner technician. Along with the citizen community members that made up the work group, the History Commission and the ARB members also supported this effort and included Barbara Peters, Susan Kovac-Schumann from the History Commission, Annalise Murray from the History Commission, as well as Samantha Wong and Kay Orr from the Architectural Review Board. And additionally, Chris Daniel and John Burns attended work group meetings and community meetings. So the background for this study, the location at the time of the board authorization, it was in the Providence Supervisory District. It's now in the Mason District with redistricting. In 2019, the Homes Run Acres community petitioned then Supervisor Linda Smith to initiate research for a feasibility study of the Historic Overlay District for Homes Run Acres neighborhood. The petition at that time showed that 72% of the homeowners supported this research initiative. As a result, on January 24th, 2020, the Board of Supervisors directed staff to consider the possible establishment of an HOD for Homes Run Acres. The study area for the proposed district consists of the property shown on the map here. The board requested that staff's evaluation include analysis and recommendations on the historic and architectural significance, as well as the boundaries for the potential historic overlay district. In addition, to a potential comprehensive plan amendment, staff will also be drafting a potential zoning ordinance amendment, as well as a rezoning application for the addition of a historic overlay district if approved by the Board of Supervisors. The Department of Planning and Development, in cooperation with the Architectural Review Board and the History Commission, will prepare and submit a report to the Planning Commission and the board evaluating the proposal to establish an HOD, which will include an analysis of the significance, the current conditions, character defining features, contributing and non-contributing properties, boundaries, and zoning ordinance recommendations. Staff looked at the existing conditions. The total parcels that staff considered included the study area, in the study area were 366. The total acreage of the study area was approximately 145 acres. The site is currently developed with single-family detached housing, with the exception of Woodburn Elementary School, Loria Park, and Holmes Run Acres Recreation Association, which is a private community rec center. The adopted comprehensive plan for the area recommends 2 to 3 dwelling units per acre, and the entire study area is zoned R3. No change is planned no change to the planned uses or density is being proposed. Included in the study area are the parcels shown in the crosshatch area for the potential inclusion in the HOD boundary. These parcels were excluded from the National Register boundary, which is shown here in the solid yellow. These parcels included the homes on the southern portion of Executive Avenue, just north of Gallows Road, the homes on Gallows Road adjacent to the Woodburn Elementary School, the parcel adjacent to Woodburn Elementary School owned by Fairfax County Public Schools, and the parcel adjacent to and owned by the Holmes Run Acres Recreation Center, which is also on Gallows Road. The zoning ordinance Article 3, subsection 3101.3, establishment of districts, states that to establish an HOD, the board must determine that the proposed district possesses historic, architectural, archaeological, or cultural significance. According to the National Register of Historic Places nomination, the Holmes Run Acres neighborhood consists of approximately 140 acres and is comprised of approximately 350 modern-style suburban single-family dwellings constructed between 1951 and 1958. The developers, brothers Gerald and Eli Loria, created a subdivision with affordable houses that took advantage of the natural terrain by blending the homes into their surroundings. The Lorias hired architects Nicholas Satterley and Donald Lethbridge to design small, inexpensive houses consisting of standardized features and modules that made the buildings adaptable. They designed the houses to be affordable, quick to construct, and sited in harmony with the natural topography and landscaping. Influenced by the principles of Frank Lloyd Wright's Usonian dwellings, the architects designed the houses in a modern style featuring open plans, plywood panels, fixed glass, and sliding windows at a time when ranch and colonial revival styles were much more popular in most nearby suburban communities. The modern design of the dwellings includes large windows on the primary facade, shed or low slope gabled roofs, and prominent brick chimneys. The dwellings were sited at an angle on lots to provide maximum privacy for the homeowners. Holmes Run Acres was added to the County Inventory of Historic Sites in February 1977. The Virginia Landmarks Register in December 2006, and the National Register of Historic Places in 2007. Listing in all these registers is an honorary designation and offers no preservation protection. Community input was extensive. The first community meeting was held in November 2019. The board authorization for the study was in January 2020, and then COVID hit in March 2020. So during the time just after the COVID hit, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to work in community meetings and participate in, just how we were going to do this process, we went out and did the field work where we could conduct our survey of the existing conditions of the properties. The first work group meeting was held in September 2020, and that since then we've conducted 15 meetings with the work group. With the work group, we reviewed and discussed the character defining features in the neighborhood, the contributing and non-contributing properties, and the draft design guidelines, which have gone through several iterations. Staff collaborated with a work group, we conducted site visits, and we researched the potential boundaries, contributing and non-contributing properties. So I'm going to be presenting here our preliminary analysis and findings for the potential HOD boundaries for the rezoning to add to the map, to the zoning map of the overlay district, the staff recommendations for the contributing and non-contributing properties, the comprehensive plan amendment, and the zoning ordinance amendment. So homes on the southern portion of Executive Avenue that were excluded from the National Register boundaries, that's this white section here. Staff continues to recommend their exclusion, along with the 3 homes adjacent to Woodburn Elementary School here on Gallows Road. The Fairfax County Park Authority properties that were not all identified in the National Register boundaries, they were just left out in the listing. Staff is recommending their inclusion as contributing. The Fairfax County Public School properties, the one parcel that was included as contributing in the National Register boundary, that's this large parcel here. And then the parcel that was excluded from the boundary, and that's this square parcel here. Both parcels have been recommended for exclusion in the National Register, in the potential historic overlay district boundaries. The Homes Run Acres Recreation Association, the 2 skinny parcels right here that abut Gallows Road, here and here. One was included as contributing in the National Register boundary, and one was excluded from the boundary, and staff recommends that both are included as contributing. There was one outlot from a non-contributing house that was excluded from the National Register listing and is recommended as non-contributing for the historic overlay district boundaries. And then there was one outlot for a contributing house that was excluded from the National Register boundaries, and we're not boundaries, excuse me, listing, and we're recommending it as included in the historic overlay district boundaries as contributing. And since the National Register nomination, 10 houses have undergone alterations significant enough that staff recommends changing their status from contributing to non-contributing since the National Register was completed in 2006 and 2007. So the methodology that we used to our assessment, to conduct our assessment for contributing and non-contributing, was these 5 steps. Was the property designated initially in the National Register nomination as contributing or non-contributing? Has the property been modified since the National Register nomination? Was the modification completed within the period of significance? If modified, does it still retain its character defining features? And if the modification diminished the historic integrity of the building according to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation.
Oh.
The comprehensive plan is required. A comprehensive plan is required by state law to be used as a guide in decision making about the natural and built environment by the county's Board of Supervisors and others such as the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals. It is also a guide for county staff and the public to use in the planning process. The current language in the comprehensive plan notes the listing of Homes Run Acres community on the inventory of historic sites, the Virginia Landmarks Register, and the National Register nomination. The proposed updates will be mainly editorial and will add the designation of quote, historic overlay district if the Board of Supervisors approves. The zoning ordinance amendment This will create the HOD in the zoning ordinance language for the homes run acres. No changes to most of the regulations in the underlying R3 district. The only change that staff is recommending is that the maximum height of all principal structures be kept at 35 feet. So that would include any additional, potential commercial properties or anything other than residential dwellings. And 35 feet is the height of residential dwellings. So when reviewing exterior projects requiring building permits in an existing HOD, the ARB uses design guidelines for new construction exterior alterations of existing building structures and sites located within a historic overlay district that are based on the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, specifically rehabilitation. These standards are written in the zoning ordinance regulating all HODs. The standards embody two important goals: the preservation of historic materials and the preservation of the building's distinguishing characteristics. The work group has been helping staff to identify features or elements that give the district and the buildings within its district its visual character that should be taken into account by the ARB in order to preserve them to the maximum extent possible. This is a list of character defining features found in the National Register nomination for the homes run acres. So curvilinear road layout, the siting of the dwelling on the landscape, as I alluded to earlier, of course, the modern architectural design, the prolific use of glass, materials such as wood, brick veneer, and the materials on the roof shape, which are low slope gable or shed roofs, and then the wide eave overhangs and large brick chimneys. The work group identified characteristics and significant features very similar to the National Register nomination that you can see here. The landscaping, the house is oriented for privacy, the mid-century modern style, the wood siding, the low slope roofs, and the big picture windows. Oh, and here I'm going to pause myself and let Sarah Vonish go over the design guidelines. And Sarah, I can continue sharing the screen if that would be easier, or you can take control if you'd like.
I can try to share.
Okay.
Let me see if I can.
It does
just
take a
made you a
minute.
presenter, so you should see it soon. Okay, thank you. Just give me 1 second. Tell me what you just see the DC, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Sarah Vonish, again, great to see you all this evening. I'll try to be brief with the time. This is our methodology. This has been consistent with all the design guidelines that we've presented to you. I just want to remind everyone that this is a draft and it's a work in progress. We provided you a draft back in June, and I did receive some comments from board members, and we look forward to receiving additional comments. We also presented an update to the design guidelines to the community in July, and we are continuing to accept comments and suggestions from the community as well. And the final design guidelines will be voted on by you if and when the Board of Supervisors approves the HOD. And this has been our methodology, just working with the working group and you and staff along the way. Contents, very similar, consistent with the other documents that you've seen. So I'm not going to go through that in much detail. And I thought I'd start with a little bit more of an overview of the character and how that informed our design guidelines. Denise touched on some of this, so I'll go through it quickly. But development history of the community, it was built in 3 phases between 1951 and 1958. The initial development phase began from 1951 to 1952, consisting of 260 homes developed by Gerald and Eli Luria, 2 brothers, who purchased the original 135-acre tract and hired architects Satterlee and Lethbridge to design the contemporary homes. It was continued in the second phase between 1954 and 55 by brothers Joseph and Anthony Gaddy, who built out the second phase, including 71 homes, also designed by Satterlee and Lethbridge. And the final third phase was developed by builder Andre Bodor. He purchased the remaining lots and built 19 homes, not designed by the architects, but consistent with the aesthetic that the original architects put in place for the community. And this kind of shows you the 3 development phases. In the orange, you see the original phase by the Luria brothers, the purple, the second phase by the Gaddy brothers, and then the third smaller phase by Bodor. And this relates to what I'll show you in the next couple slides, including the different models. Original development character, Denise talked about this, but the developers carefully approached the site planning and layout with meandering streets that followed the natural contours of the land. They also included a lot of cul-de-sacs for family-friendly oriented community design. The natural grades and mature trees were retained where possible. Houses were arranged to take advantage of views and the sun while also maximizing privacy between the homes. 1-story homes were typically set on flat lots, while 2-story homes were set onto the hillside and more sloped lots, and often set into the slope so they appear as a split level home. They provided variety on the street by reorienting the very few different house plans and adding add-on features such as carports that were attached or detached, and using variation in color on the exterior panels and doors. The landscape was simple and informal. Early homeowners had the opportunity to work with landscape architect Lou Bernard Voigt before his death in 1953, I believe, to purchase individual plans, but we don't have a lot of information on what homes actually purchased those plans and how they, if they are still there, frankly. So the homes were modernist. They featured clean horizontal lines, broad low slope gable roofs, expansive glazing, and brick chimneys constructed of used brick that was in the original architect's drawings. It was either used or a sand finished brick to give it to that character that it has, as well as integrated carports. They used standardized house plans and post and beam construction with prefabricated components and repetitive materials to make the homes more affordable, also allowing them to be easily expanded as needed as families grew in the homes. So the house plans, the first is the 1-story Luria, and you can see some examples here, designed by Satterlee and Lethbridge, generally on flat lots, featuring fixed or sliding aluminum sash windows, built up roofs with a 2/12 low slope pitch, exterior cladding, including plywood and vertical T11, 111 wood siding, and those exterior brick chimneys. The 2-story Luria, the second floor, similar to the 1-story plan, but with a lower level that was regularly sloped in or banked into the lot of the property. Same materials that you see on the other Luria, also capped with a low slope roof with wide overhanging eaves. And there were 5 different choices for the 2-story Luria home with slightly different interior arrangements and garage options. You can see in some of these pictures, they have integrated garages at the first floor, or they don't, or they have a attached carport. or a detached garage. That was also an option. So then we move on to the Gaddy brothers in the second phase of development. And these two-story homes were slightly larger than the two-story Luria homes. They were constructed on both flat and sloped lots. And homeowners had the option to include a deck with square wood railings accessed from the second floor, I believe, living room. And these were also capped with low slope side gable roofs with wide overhanging eaves, covered up with built up tar and gravel roofs. And the final model that you see throughout the neighborhood is the Bodor in that final phase. These two-story homes had a much lower, almost flat roof. So you can barely see the roof. It's a little flatter than the other models. And like the others, they are clad in brick, wood, and glass. They closely follow the same architectural idiom of the Luria and Gaddy homes, but have the most notable difference being the main entry, which features large two-story height windows around that entry, that central entry. They're also larger than the earlier two-story models, and they came in models of either 30 by 38 feet or 30 by 40 feet. And you can see the carport on these are also larger and taller than the other homes in the neighborhood. So an overview of the design guidelines. The neighborhood retains much of its mid-century modern architectural character and character-defining features. But many, if not all, of the homes have undergone some level of change, and including alterations and additions. And common alterations that we observed included replacement of original plywood and vertical wood siding with various materials, some of which you can see here. Replacements of the brick with stacked stone or other materials, infill of carports for additional living space, modification of original window openings, usually truncating them, as well as replacing the original aluminum sash windows, addition of privacy fencing and expansion of, sorry, Denise, I just saw the message, expansion of driveways and parking areas, which ultimately alter the relationship of the houses within the setting that was originally envisioned by the developers. The neighborhood has also experienced demolitions and new construction that's out of scale with the existing 1- and 2-story homes and the prevailing character of the neighborhood. So the draft design guidelines were formulated with this in mind, and these changes that we observed in mind, to foster compatible and appropriate change. And they include recommended and not recommended treatments like you've seen in the other design guidelines, to help applicants meet project objectives while minimizing detrimental impacts to the historic district as a whole. This was just one image from a home and garden tour brochure from 1991 that illustrated, the extensive additions and changes that we've seen. And you can see the kind of modest original home and the various additions that were made, kind of encapsulating that original home over time as the families grew. So within the design guidelines, like the other documents, they're divided into 3 parts. The first part provides guidance on maintaining and altering existing homes. It's organized by building elements and features, and the guidance is presented as recommended or not recommended treatments. The recommended treatments being consistent with the ARB's review standards and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. They provide a treatment hierarchy, beginning with minimally invasive actions, repair, and then progressing to replacement in kind where necessary due to damage or deterioration. With that in mind, the guidelines do acknowledge that the original construction techniques and materials were selected for their affordability, and may not be the most durable and may no longer be available. So alternative materials are recommended where necessary, or where feasible or the only option, so long as those alternative materials are consistent with and compatible with the original materials and appearance. The second section provides guidelines for designing new construction and additions that complement the existing mid-century character of the homes. They include recommendations for siting and site design, size, scale, and massing, proportion and symmetry, as well as the building elements and features that are outlined in the first part. Per the standards, the guidelines recommend that new additions and construction be compatible with the historic character of the neighborhood, yet differentiated enough so that the addition does not take away from the historic building form or negatively impact its historic character and integrity. The final section of the design guidelines provides guidance related to the landscape and streetscape, includes guidance for landscape design, fencing, privacy screens, driveways, as well as archaeological resources if they're discovered in the neighborhood. And then I have a more detailed review. I don't know how detailed you want me to go with considering time and everything. Denise, do you want me to keep going?
I think maybe just the headings, just maybe show, recommended for.
Yeah. So Denise and Sarah, I think obviously we're gonna get to see the actual document eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, we'll see the actual document, but I think you walking through these sections and highlighting any key points might be helpful for members to keep in mind, because obviously each HOD is different, and I think this one in particular, just like Holland Hills, is a more unique one compared to some of our other ones, given the fact that they're neighborhoods. So if there are any things you want to really highlight to us to keep in mind, that would be really helpful.
Sure, I'll run through these and kind of touch on some of the key points that we've had a lot of discussions with the work group on. So, this kind of, I combined the kind of building features and elements that are presented in both the preservation and rehabilitation, as well as the new construction and addition section, but really recommended treatments with the goal of retaining original wall and exterior cladding materials, and where necessary, replacing them with new materials that match, or designing additions that employ materials that complement those original materials. And here are some images from the design guidelines. We don't have not recommended photos within the document. This was a request from the work group, as well as Holland Hills. We heard that a lot. They didn't want the not recommended images in the document, but this kind of shows you the types of materials that we would like to avoid, that we would not recommend using in the neighborhood, as being not consistent with the historic character. Roofs and roof features and materials. This is one that was a big topic with the work group. The most important thing being is to retain the original low slope gable roof forms. We've looked at the historic drawings, identified the original roof slopes. I think the work group was looking for more specificity, but we're not, the directive we received from the board was we don't want prescriptive design guidelines. We want to explain why we want low slope roofs. And, that's kind of one of the most important things here, because that really contributes to the character of the neighborhood. Another issue was the materiality. The homes originally featured built up tar and gravel roofs. They've presented maintenance issues for homeowners. And we've heard that retention and replacement in kind isn't feasible, and can be cost prohibitive. So the guidelines don't provide any specific material recommendations, but do recommend using roof materials that are consistent and compatible with the historic appearance in their material, texture, and color where possible. And obviously on the homes with flat roofs or not visible roof slopes, not much of an issue, as they're not visible. So here's the not recommended. I don't think I have to go through that. but you can see how the change to the roof slope can really detrimentally impact the character of the home. Entrances, patios, porches, and decks, maintaining what's there, replacing with compatible elements. And this wasn't something that we had this wasn't a major discussion point. I think it's self-explanatory. Avoiding paneled or decorated doors that don't fit within the mid-century modern characteristics, altering porches with railings that are more decorative. Windows, original windows were aluminum fixed and sliding windows. Many windows have been replaced throughout the community, but our recommendations are to replace them to match the visual characteristics, the thin profiles of the original windows, recognizing that it might not be feasible to replace them in kind. And where possible to improve energy efficiency to install interior storm windows rather than replacing windows, and maintaining operability where possible. And for new construction, considering a thoughtful balance ratio and looking at the existing neighborhood precedent when looking at the size and proportion of new windows. And not recommended extensive changes to openings and the fenestration patterns, addition of arched windows or muntins that you wouldn't find in the neighborhood normally and are of a different character. Garages, carports, accessory structures. A lot of community members have expressed interest in enclosing carports to provide additional living space. So providing guidance to use those carports while also retaining their character by, using infilling with reveals or setbacks to help define its original use, or designing new carports that are light and open in character and fit within the landscape. Avoiding large two-story garage structures, altering the roof slopes, adding them in a way that distracts from the original home. We have guidance for adaptation and sustainability. This has been in previous guidelines as well, emphasizing that these changes, where possible, should be made on secondary elevations. But if it needs to be on the front elevation, installing ramps or other elements to facilitate access in a way that are simple in design and don't obscure character defining features of the home and are of appropriate scale. And I don't have any very good, I don't think I saw any homes with solar panels in the neighborhood, but just installing solar in a way that doesn't take away from the home, using low profile solar panels that are installed close to the roof and match the original roof color, and not modifying the slope of the roof, obviously. Building siding for new construction and additions, utilizing and looking around the neighborhood and placing new additions and construction on secondary elevations so they are differential in character and don't obscure or modify the original character of the home, the original model, and utilizing design devices such as setbacks and hyphens to differentiate them. Not recommended, obscuring, damaging, or destroying character defining features. We saw a lot of front-facing additions that have really changed the appearance of the original homes as well as the new construction in the neighborhood. Size, scale, and massing, keeping it within the scale. A lot of the community members are concerned about what we've heard is that they're concerned about the scale of new construction, and really trying to make recommendations to make sure that the new construction is compatible with the existing buildings and not out of scale with the existing. And then the site design and landscape, also consistent, recommended, not recommended. Fencing and privacy screens, similar to Holland Hills, these homes weren't designed with property boundary fencing and major privacy fencing that block views from the street, really in mind of shared view sheds throughout the neighborhood and the landscape character that was originally intended. So recommending small, minimally visible privacy screens and fencing so that it's not, taking over the entire property. And then driveways, another element that we talked about a lot, keeping the original narrow driveways that maintain a lot of the landscape and the character of the front yards, and avoiding expansive new driveways and parking beds that really take over the landscape character of the neighborhood. They originally had concrete driveways, so talking about materials as well. I think that's it for me. So I'll hand it back to you, Denise.
Thanks, Sarah. Grace, could you? Thank you. We're almost done. Thank you. Okay. So this is just I'm going to run very quickly. I know it was very quick in the beginning, and I'm going to run quickly through this too. The county was requested by the Civic Association, the Homes for an Acre Civic Association, to conduct a poll very similar to the poll that we conducted for the Holland Hills Historic Overlay District when that was being considered. The timing is different, however, the staff report has not been written. And I'm sorry, I just realized I'm not sharing. There we go. Sorry, just realized I was off camera. The staff report has not been written for the Homes for an Acre Civic Association HOD, Homes for an Acres Neighborhood HOD yet, potential. Where in the Holland Hills, the staff report had been written, and then they did the poll. So right now, we've had the poll open from August 1st. And it closes tomorrow at midnight. Most of it is done electronically. I've had 3 people request paper ballots, but almost everybody has submitted the poll electronically. There were 3 questions. One is, how informed do you feel about the potential historic overlay district? And then the second question is, do you support the establishment of the HOD for the HRA neighborhood? And then the third is a third question that the community wanted, the Civic Association wanted, which addresses the essentially the building envelope, specifically the height, further height restrictions. The homes and Homes for an Acres were approximately 25 feet or less. They're right now, of course, the single family dwelling, the height is allowed up to 35 feet in an R3 zoning district. And would you consider possibly allowing a building height of less than 35 feet? And that would be an additional study that would not be part of this historic overlay district effort right now, but would come at a later date. And then, of course, just an open-ended comment box. And just a little context, the public input website that we're using to conduct the poll, all of the information that we've provided here tonight is provided in document form for everybody to read. So the design guidelines are part of the introduction to the poll. The comprehensive plan, draft comprehensive plan, potential zoning ordinance, and the boundaries, the list of contributing and non-contributing properties, all of that information is provided when you go to take the poll, and you sort of have to go through all the steps to get to the poll. So hoping that people will, take the time and the opportunity to go through all that information before submitting their poll response. The timeline. So this was the slide from the community meeting. So we had a community meeting in July 26th, then we had another one on August 4th. So we held 2 community meetings to roll this out to the community. The poll opened in the beginning of August, as I said, and the poll closes tomorrow. We will go back to the community at some point in October to present the poll results. The timeline for the study, right now we're in that poll phase, and we're presenting our preliminary results to the Architectural Review Board. The History Commission we presented in August. We still have to schedule the Park Authority Board. The poll results, as I said, will be published in the fall, in October. We anticipate our staff analysis being completed and the staff report being published in January, and that's when we'll get authorization for the public hearing dates, and then anticipation going to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors sometime in early spring. But of course, all of these dates are subject to change. And that's the end of my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my
Thanks,
screen.
Denise and Sarah, for that presentation. So I think I'm just going to throw one question out there. I didn't see in there, I saw the Planning Commission. When is the anticipated date that this may come to us for consideration for recommendation?
It would be after the board hearing, after the Planning Commission and after the board hearing, if the board approves it. So right now we have a tentative spring. We're saying spring because we don't have dates yet.
Understood.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'll leave that to any members if you have any questions for Denise and Sarah. I know several members have attended some of the community outreach meetings as well as the community meetings. So, or if folks want to share any perspectives, this is just a informational item for us and a chance for us to ask any questions. This is not the one we're holding public comment, which would be something we'd have to do in the future.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Burns. I can't see you, so by all means.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'll turn my video on. Yes, I'm still here. Okay. Since we have both Sarah Bonish and Denise here, I'll ask the question I've asked before, and that is, what is the status of the update of the overarching guidelines as opposed to these individual HOD guidelines, i.e. the ones that we're currently using are date from 1992? What's the status of that update?
So right now, what I can say is that the updates of all of the design guidelines are on pause until we can get staffed, fully staffed, or maybe not fully staffed, because I've given up hope on that. But until we can get a little bit more staff time, and then we will be able to take those out to the community, because of course we're going to have to take each design guideline for HID out to the community for community input, as we've done with the new design guidelines for the new HIDs. So
thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, I feel John took my thunder there on that. That was going to be one of mine. I think that's a critical thing, because if there was one point that came up during the community meeting that I attended in person. It was a very salient point brought up by a community member that now, with the addition of Holland Hills and the potential addition of Holmes Run Acres, the ARB will have gained a mountain of heritage resources that will fall under our purview. And I think staffing is critical for us to be able to do this, and recognizing that we've now had Laura depart us for other opportunities where, we're feeling like we're putting out for positions before. And so that is one thing that I think as staff analyzes its recommendations to us, well, I think there's an important thing of looking at, do we have resources that can be preserved in the sense of an HOD? Does the ARB have the capacity and the ability to administrate to an HOD too? I'm concerned on both fronts, and that's part of me is just concerned on it as the chair, because I see all the time the meetings I have with Denise in advance of our meetings to try to make sure our agenda is aligned to give us time to cover everything. We've got to be able to hear all these applications and provide the time for any applicants to suggest workshops. So that's probably one of my biggest concerns. The other one I'll just bring up, and I mentioned it to Denise, was there were a lot of different questions. And I know staff was working on providing answers to all of those. And I think that's something that's going to be really critical moving forward still, is educating and informing as to what a historic overlay district is and what it is not. And I think staff has done an admirable job during those meetings in trying to convey that message to folks. And it's different because, you know, in some of our existing HODs, we have a small collection of properties or a small collection of owners. And so it's very easy to explain what the HOD is to that small group. But when you have a large group of homeowners, Holland Hills is a great example, that has a design review committee, that it is a very different environment. So the more staff can continue to educate on that point as we move forward through these next steps is going to be really critical, no matter what the recommendation is in the staff report to us, because I think the board's purpose needs to be understood clearly. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here on this, Denise, but I feel like it has to be said for the sake of the record.
Right, we are aware of the staffing issues, and we are trying to fill those positions as quickly as we can. Thank you very much for that comment. And also we did get out the answers to the community meeting questions. So those have now been posted online as well. So
any other members that had any other questions for Sarah or Denise? I've got one more I'm going to throw at Sarah. So Sarah, this is something I've noticed in looking at the Holland Hills and this one. It seems almost like Homes Run Acres is kind of like a Holland Hills light, in the sense that there's a similarity in design, but a softness in the variation. Like I think almost like there was a style, there's some style parallels, but there's a lot less complexity in materials is what I would feel like I'm seeing in Homes Run Acres. But I still see some of those same themes, just not to the same grandeur that Holland Hills has done things to. And that's not to compare one against the other. It's, you know, it's more, do you have a tiramisu every day, or do you like, chocolate chip cookies, and chocolate chip cookies made well are really good too. And I just was curious if that was something you noticed having working on both these sets, and that's something I want to make sure the guidelines are reflective of, is that, there's a little bit more flexibility. I feel like if Home Run Acres becomes an HOD, I feel like there's more variability options there than there are in Holland Hills with the design ethos that was brought into mindset there. But that could be me misinterpreting it. I could be wrong there.
I think, yeah, it was the same period, same kind of kit of parts, materiality wise. And I think Homes Run Acres was really aimed at affordability and standardization, maybe more so than Holland Hills. And we've seen a lot more additions and alterations in the neighborhood, just because of the original intent of the homes to be flexible and to be able to be adapted. Same period, same mid-century modern character, but two different neighborhoods, both unique in the county for the use of the mid-century modern style and surrounding neighborhoods of colonial revival and ranch developments. So we've working with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and year review standards, really trying to prioritize the preservation and retention of the historic materials and home models, while recognizing that changes have been made and they will continue to be made as the as time goes on. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I agree. I think you're right that, you know, they're similar, but two very different neighborhoods.
Or at least different approaches to the same kind of concept, perhaps. And that might be what I'm getting at. And John, I think you might, it looks like you want to say something too.
Yes, if my observation would be that they both had talented architects as the base designers, but I think that Goodman was better at prevailing on the developer Davenport than the folks at Holmes Run Acres were able to impose their will on the Luria brothers. In other words, there's slightly more merchant builder aesthetic to Holmes Run Acres than Holland Hills. And it's not a discredit to the architects for either, but it's just that was the nature of it. You know, the one looked more like it was a developer project, and Holland Hills, you know, Davenport was listened more closely and went out on a limb, I think, a bit more. And also, Sarah, just for your information, I do know that in the Kiley archives up at Harvard, there is one Holmes Run Acre lot that has a Dan Kiley landscape plan. I can tell you the name of the original owner. I don't have it off the top of my head, but no street address. So if in your research you have the names of all the original owners of the property, you can probably figure out what street address it is. But there was one Kiley drawing for Holmes Run Acres.
Thank you. I'll look at that. And the other thing I was going to add, Holland Hills had the design review committee, which also big
all
difference.
All throughout our history, we've had
Yes.
design review. And so I think what you're seeing is design review can mitigate change or guide change. When you don't have design review, it's a little more free for all. You had, I think, 50 plus properties that were non-contributing because of alterations over time.
Yeah.
And that's a higher percentage than you encountered at Holland Hills.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. And yeah, you described it a little better than I did. It's just two different types of chocolate chip cookies. One in which the chef is showing up and making it all the way and not letting the other assistant chefs do anything. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. You can tell I'm hungry. I didn't get to eat much. No, any other members with comments or questions for Sarah or Denise? Not seeing any. Are there any do-outs for us from this, Denise?
No. Well,
more we need to become familiar with it.
You did receive the June draft of the design guidelines, and we have received some comments, but please do review them again. And I'm happy to send out the most recent revision, which was July. I'm not sure. Sarah, do you know how many changes there were between the two iterations?
Minor. We received a couple comments from board members with some edits that were made, but nothing major.
So if you would, please take a look at the design guidelines that you have, but you can also find and I'm happy to send them out specifically to this group, the new iteration. There have not been that many changes between the June and July draft, and get those in. If you have any comments, get back to us as quickly as you can.
Okay.
And Denise, can you share your PowerPoint presentation from tonight?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Denise, for all your hard work on this as well, Sarah, and obviously send our thank yous to the rest of the county staff who have been running those meetings. I know they are tough. There's a lot of questions that come from those communities, and y'all are doing a great job representing the staff, who are not the ones making the decision, but are the ones that have to inform a decision, is the most important thing I think folks need to take away sometimes. Just the messenger.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I will pass that message along. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, seeing there's nothing else from there, we'll move on to board and staff items. We've got quite a few things on here, but we'll try to get through them. A few more exciting ones, I would say, than others. Denise, you ready? We'll start tackling those.
Yep, I'm just gonna get to my
All right.
notes.
Well, first and foremost is review and action on the approval of the previous month's minutes. Denise shared those with us in our share file. Are there any revisions from any members? And Denise, did you get shared any revisions?
I did not receive any.
Right. I'm not seeing anyone's hands up saying they've got a revision. So if that's the case, I would entertain a motion. Miss Murray.
I move that the Architecture Review Board approve the minutes for the August meeting and pay the clerk.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Kalinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right. Thank you. Treasurer's report. Our ending balance as of August 26, 2022 is $25,518.93. Denise noted to me that there's some fluctuation in here, obviously, because some of the funds that we committed to other studies have been withdrawn from us. So that would be the African American survey effort, as well as the countywide modern study. Those funds that we committed to supporting those have been taken out. So that's why you might notice a major change, right, Denise?
Actually, not the African American, excuse me, not the mid-century modern. That one hasn't come out yet. That's
Okay.
what I was noting. Yep. So you will see that fluctuate by $7,500. So.
All right. Thanks, Denise.
Mhm.
Any questions on the treasurer's report? Seeing any, I think the thing that's going to have the most commentary, at least, is this next administrative item: in-person meetings. Denise,
Right.
what does the future lie for us?
I think I just heard just today from Leanna that the emergency order will most not likely be lifted this month in September. However, I've been advised to plan that for both scenarios, for returning to in-person in October and for potentially holding a virtual meeting in October, which will mean two changes for each, or one change for each scenario. Right now, we do not have a room for the October meeting because the health department will be using our normal room for vaccination clinics. So I went ahead and reached out to the Lorton Workhouse at Laura's recommendation, and they are willing to host your meeting again in October, as they have I think in past pre-COVID,
many moons ago.
right, pre-COVID times, for a small fee of $60. That's just to have staff on site, because they close at 6, so they'd need to pay somebody to be there while we were holding our meeting. And then so that's one scenario. The second scenario is if we go virtually again. The county is phasing out WebEx and moving everybody to Teams. So in October, if we go all virtual, we will be on the Teams platform rather than the WebEx platform. And don't everybody cry at the same time, because although I'm not sure, I hear people complain about Teams as well. So I think each platform has its own issues. So that is to say that we don't have to do anything specifically right now. There's no motion that I need for the all virtual meeting, because we will just continue to do what we have always done. However, if it is in person, I do need approval of the $60 expenditure for that room reservation.
All right. Would there, Ms. Murray?
I sat through a 3-hour history commission meeting last night, so I'm crisp now. I move that the Architecture Review Board authorize the expense of $60 to pay for the room at Lorton.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Second it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not sure who.
That's fine. Give it to John. Give it to John. That's right.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Murray. Denise, the only thing I want to know is how soon will we know that answer? Because I think for the folks in South County, that's great for y'all.
Yeah.
That's a short trip. For us up in the Reston area and far parts of further, that's a bit of a drive. So I just, how soon will we know that answer?
Well, I
That could be you don't know. That can be
right.
fine if you say I don't know.
If you are relying on the emergency order being lifted to make that determination, then I don't know. But you could right now determine that you are going to meet in October in person if you as a body feel that it is safe to do so. So you always have the option of meeting in person, always. It's just that you have continued to meet virtually due to the state of emergency and the pandemic.
I leave that to the body.
I'm a, hi, this is Joe. I was just going to say, we are a county agency. To me, I don't care if we meet in person or not. Frankly, I've maybe overcome that hurdle, but I think we should go with whatever the county recommendations are for the emergency order to be dismissed or continued, because we are members of a county agency, instead of us just trying to say, hey, we think we're better than the county because that's what we want to do. That's just my 2 cents.
Chris's question, I think, is how far in advance would we know so we can plan? May I suggest we use the same 2-week in advance requirement that we give to our applicants? That if it's not lifted 2 weeks in advance, we'll stay virtual.
I mean, as long as whatever the county does doesn't make us go back. I think I like Joe's approach in the sense that let's just continue to operate as is, and if the county makes the change, Denise will let us know as soon as that change happens.
Sure.
I mean, we can't. I mean, we could try to predict, but I don't think there's much we can do on this front. It sounds like it is nigh, though, that we will be meeting in person, whether it's this coming month or next. And it sounds like what you're saying, though, Denise, in your next item is that in November, if we don't meet in October in person, we will be back at the government center.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. And I have that authorization for the room reservation. So if we need to, if you are mandated to go back in person, then we can do that because I can reserve the room. So
okay, just the moment you know.
The moment I know, promise. Yeah.
All right. Unless there's any other questions on that, I think I'm gonna channel Ms. Murray's energy and say let's move onward. The Lake Ann permit update. As you all would recall, I'm just going to short update. There was a project that was noted that was occurring at Lake Ann. It was supposed to be interior mechanical work. And then there was a giant hole in the side of the building with a vent. And so that got brought to our attention, and Denise has done some researching. Denise, lay it on us.
Right. So this is the update. Thank you, Chris, for laying that that context. So we were made aware of this project by a citizen inquiry. Our investigation found that the permit type issued for the 1631 Washington Plaza was for a commercial interior alteration for a new tenant layout. And this type of permit for interior changes is not typically routed for heritage resource review because it's supposed to be interior alterations. On further review, it appears that there were exterior alterations proposed through the HVAC trade permit. The permit was reviewed by county staff in November 2021 and subsequently issued without ARB review or an approval. So our group is normally notified by either the building or zoning permit review branches when they're reviewing a permit application for a property within an HOD, such as Lake Ann. In this case, because the permit was for interior alterations, which are typically outside of the ARB purview, the permit was not routed to us for review. And we regret the oversight and are continuing to look internally at how to resolve the issue in issues such as this in the future.
I think the only other big thing to take away is we are outside the statute of limitations as well to do anything about this permit. So,
Right, yes, exactly, because it was issued last November.
unfortunate, and we're noting more problems with trying to catch everything we possibly can. But I know that this has been elevated up to Leanna, and she's trying to work to find a solution.
That's correct. Thank you.
Samantha.
One of my coworker, he live in Lake Ann, and he showed me the photos. So the duct already installed. That is from first floor all the way to the roof, and is visible from the parking lot. But my understanding,
It's not too pretty. I would agree.
no, it's not right. It's got all that steel and bolt to the brick and everything, and start rusting already. So,
So I don't know if it makes any difference to you all, but I did take a look at what was submitted, and the ductwork is supposed to be painted something that they called Reston Brown.
yes, the proposal is they. My understanding is there is a duct in the middle, and then they will use sheet metal and with painted color. What I see from the photo is the duct was installed. The sheet metal enclosure is not.
Okay.
And I think last week the project was called back to the Community Design Review Board because of complaint from the neighbors, and the review board did try to enforce. They have to install the sheet metal enclosure as they submitted. I did not have any update after that.
Thank you, Samantha. Any other thoughts, observations? Always learning and growing. That's what I'm discovering these days. All right. Discussion, updates, and reports. I will try to keep mine short and sweet. Reston Comprehensive Plan Task Force update. So the Reston Task Force is done. Over a year longer than it probably had to be, but it's done. They voted and approved some task force recommendations. Those recommendations Denise shared with you, and not just the heritage section, but the entirety of the task force recommendations. Now, those are the recommendations from the task force. They are not the ipso facto comp plan language. But those are going to be brought out alongside any other stuff that the county staff is going to present to the public. And so there's now a very large public involvement and community engagement phase that's taking place. What I'll say is some of this during this, the staff is providing recommendations on the task force sections. Denise and Laura looked at the heritage section. They had a few revisions to provide to it. I think virtually all of them are great. There's only one that I disagree with, and it's because they want to remove the section that says we encourage development that might affect heritage resources to come to the ARB. It's not that we require, we just encourage them to come talk to us. And those are guidelines, so they're not even hard rules. But the staff is saying they want it out. I'm holding firm that I think it should stay in. I had Denise share this with you all because in October, the intention is to have county staff present to us on the comp plan update. And with you all having this in hand, you can take a look at the entire comp plan. And we can obviously provide any recommendations as an ARB, not just me as a surrogate member sitting in on there as a community member of Reston, but also an ARB member. So please take a look at those materials. Heritage is scattered throughout. It isn't just in its own section. There are some new sections in there that are pretty unique, like community health and equity, but I'd encourage you to take a look at it and be prepared for a potential presentation in October from county staff and be ready to provide any feedback you want to during that. All right, that's all I got on that one. Joe and Samantha, Lorton Workhouse Master Plan.
Sure. Samantha, if you don't mind, I'll speak just ever so briefly. Master plan is going along swimmingly well. We have another we have a meeting that is on for the campus master plan September 13th, next Tuesday evening. It's a continuation. I think this is meeting number 3. Nothing earth-shattering yet. I think there's been conversations in a general sense. Can we add vegetation in the greens, such as shade trees here and there in the quad? There is talk about see if they can open up views from 123 vegetation-wise. Building-wise, everything's pretty consistent that as it has been. But new buildings is proposed, like for instance, residential development and so forth, that's outside the quad, kind of where the parking lots are right now to activate the campus. But it's a master plan level. It's gotten some good rapport from the workhouse committee. So nothing earth-shattering to report at this point. It's still in the process of evolution. That's all.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions? Not seeing any. Bylaws update for August recess, Mr. Zellman.
Yeah, I've been working on some language. My intention is to get it, Mr. Chairman, to you and Denise so that we can have it distributed to everybody to look at for our next meeting. So, you know, at least a couple weeks before the October meeting, and have some language that we can look at and we can and then send it on to the county attorney and the board of supervisors.
All right. Thank you, sir. Exceptional design rewards. I'll just let Kay talk too. So you'll see in the materials Denise shared, we, through a little bit of administrative history digging, found the answer for why the ARB, and not the ARB chairman, but just a member of the ARB, I will observe. It actually doesn't throw me under the bus. Has to chair the exceptional design awards, a document nearly as old as me. It's only 2 months younger. Is what I'll point out, from 1984, sets up the original intent. And one of the things that I'll observe is it did have a whole category for historic preservation. So there was an area for us to recognize that kind of initiative, but it's not really something we've jumped on. What I'll say is the staff that are working with this has been working with Denise as well as with Kay, providing her availability to try to find a date to schedule this. We have still not landed on an actual date for the design rewards. Denise, I don't know, and Kay, if you have any other updates on this. We're kind of in limbo still.
I don't have anything to add. You've done well.
What I'll say is Kay is trying her best to be available in it. I will try, if she cannot, to step in, but if there's anyone else who has an interest, there may be an opportunity, but we still don't know even the exact date yet. All right. Heritage Resource Personnel update. Oh my gosh, Laura, I know you're hiding out here, so.
Right. Well, I'll just say before we get to Laura, I've put her at the end so you all can have time to chat with her. But the new History Commission liaison, Laura Kaviclis, started on August 15th, and she attended her first History Commission meeting last night. Yay! So I'm very, very, very happy about that. The Heritage Resource Planner 2 that's supporting the ARB with staff reports, we are having to re-advertise for that. So unfortunately, so to stay tuned for that. The Heritage Resource Planner 2 limited term to support the History Commission is starting, and Laura can confirm this, starting later this month, the 26th. Yep, she's nodding her head. So the History Commission has lots of support, and we just need our position filled. And Laura is leaving us, if you have not heard. And she's taking a position as a senior planner in the City of Falls Church, and her last date is tomorrow. So she joins us now for to say goodbye.
Swan song. No,
That's right. So did Jason steal you from us, Jason?
Jason? No.
Oh no, that's false. Sure, that's City of Fairfax. My fault. Sorry.
No, yeah, he's in the city for. No, I'm going to the other city. I'm going to the City of Falls Church. I'm going to be the deputy zoning administrator and a senior planner there. So
Mr. Schneider will treat you well.
Yes,
He's a good guy.
I've heard great things about Falls Church.
Well, it's all changing with the Virginia Tech campus and that whole 66 Route 7 corridor. It's all changing. It's going to be cool.
I know it's going to be different. I'm very excited about only having 2.2 square miles to worry about instead of 401 or
Yeah,
whatever it is at the
yeah.
county.
Laura's
You gotta go.
downsizing.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
gotta
I
go to
am
that.
done.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
though, Laura, you will be sorely
missed.
missed. You
Yes.
you stepped in to Linda's shoes and really did some amazing things with trying to fill staffing shortfalls to bring the guidelines forward. There's a lot of great things you've overseen in your time here at the county, and it is sad to see you go, but I know that you'll enjoy that just as much because I know you've got a really diverse planning background, not just us heritage folks. So I can't thank you enough, and I'm sure everyone else here would agree. We really appreciate every effort you've given us.
Thank you. It's been a fun ride. It really hit me when I realized I have 18 years until I can retire. So I decided I've only worked at the county and needed to start looking somewhere else. There's nothing against you all. You all have been great. It's just a good opportunity came up and I could not pass it up. So, but thank you all so much. I appreciate the time and I've learned so much from all of you. And thank you for your support and continued support of Heritage Resources. And just know you always have an ally in Falls Church. So if you need anything, please let me know. Please don't be a stranger either. So.
Well, you know, we know. We got a friend in Falls Church. So.
Laura, Barbara Ward from the Holland Hills Design Review Committee said that you will be sorely missed. She wanted me to relay that to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. She emailed me as well, but thank you very much.
That's
Holland
true.
Hills is
Two
fun.
HODs under your belt too, right?
Yeah, Holland Hills really did me in, I'll tell you. But yeah, no, it's good. We have really good progress, and Heritage Resources is really trending in the right direction with the county. So I'm very optimistic, and we have support with Leanna and our new director and supervisors. So it really is. We're building our group. We're really going in the right direction. But I'll leave you all in great hands. So no doubt about that.
Thanks so much, Laura.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Save. Should have made that the last thing. Let's try to speed through these last two items then.
Sorry, yeah.
Remote participation policy update, Denise.
So I provided that in your packet. There is some editorial things that the county attorney has added, and then also added that one provision that allows remote participation for a person whose primary residence is 60 miles from the meeting location. And we understand that that does not apply to anybody. I asked specifically if we needed to update it since it doesn't apply to us. And they I strongly recommended that we go ahead and approve the new version for the Architectural Review Board, just for those editorial things that they have changed. So
I would entertain a motion to approve those updated remote participation policy.
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Zellman.
I will move to adopt the remote participation policy that we were provided prior to the meeting as is currently written.
Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
Seconded by Mr. Kalinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. I'll be telling you all about my house that's located 60 miles from the county government center, but it's still within a proffered area of the county. Anyways, so, okay, that the way National Trust Virtual Conference registration. So I know we approved for you to sign up for those 10 free slots.
Right. So I'll be sending out an email first thing Monday morning to see who would like to participate. Early bird registration closes on September 26th. So I'll be putting a deadline on, please get back to me by whatever, probably the 24th, 23rd, something like that, if you'd like to participate and take up one of those registration slots.
All right, thank you, Denise. Make sure to let Denise know. And then obviously, otherwise, you're going to use the rest of the slots, hopefully for county staff to utilize, I would assume.
If that's, I know that has been done in the past at the Architectural Review Board. doesn't mind. Staff always appreciates that.
Not going to waste them, right? Oh. All right. Get to Denise on that. New business budget for FY 2024.
Actually, can I go back because I added something that you all don't know about because it just came in. I just wanted to let you know that the Isaac Newton Square documentation, which was HAB's documentation through a proffered condition, that was submitted to the National Park Service late last week, and DPD, the Virginia Room, and the rest of the museum are all receiving copies of that documentation. So I just wanted to let you know that came in this week.
Thank you, Denise.
I can confirm that they've received it. I talked to the Habs folks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Our man on the inside.
Yeah. They wished there was more, but they're pleased with what they got.
Great. And then I have one other thing that is new business, just an information item that was again added sort of last minute. The Sunrise Assisted Living Facility is being proposed for the city of Fairfax across from the historic courthouse and jail. And Heritage Resources will be commenting on that proposal as an interjurisdictional review. And primarily our concerns are view shed.
Okay. But now on to the budget.
Now on to the budget. So staff is recommending that the Architectural Review Board increase its budget request by $473 from $10,005 to $10,478 to cover the cost for employer FICA. So that is not a cost that had been considered when the staff when the the recording secretary salary was increased, or whatever stipend was increased. FICA wasn't considered in that, and so you all have.
In case anyone doesn't know, that's payroll tax.
Yes, yeah. So you all have been essentially just paying that $473 out of your regular, your other
all right
budget. So I would.
You would entertain a motion, Denise.
I would, but it's just not me entertaining a motion, and I'm not sure that you all need to vote on it. I'm a little confused about how this works.
I talked with Denise about this. We don't really ever talk and vote on our budget, but I think this is one where we should definitely direct staff to appropriately increase our budget to accommodate this, because we don't need from our ARB budget to be out of other funds paying the payroll tax. That should be part of what is covered and given to us for our recording secretary. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In light of the fact that we're perhaps going back to virtual meetings and may have to provide dual access, i.e. in person and virtual at the same time, that's going to be extra work for staff and recording secretary probably as well. Why not just round it up to say $15,000?
I would entertain said motion from you, Mr. Burns.
It's a rounding error for the county. It strikes me as a very modest increase, but if they're already inclined to give us a little more money, why don't we just ask for a little more?
Ms. Murray?
Well, actually, I because of the History Commission, I read the letter this year, and it's all full of dire and gloom and doom, and don't ask for any more than your current level. So that's one thing that's going on. The second thing is Denise has to write a justification for why the money needs to go up. And so you need to be able to provide Denise with a very good justification for every amount over the additional amount. You've got a good case for 400 and some, but she's got to fill out a Schedule 6A or something like that. So
that was going to be my follow-on question, Elise. Thank you so much for bringing that up. You know, how would I justify the additional? I feel like we have a good case for the $473, but I'm not sure that just a rounding number, rounding up is a good enough reason for me to justify asking for the budget increase.
Okay, I had to ask since we've already increased the number of properties that ARB has to potentially review by 470 so properties and may add another 300 plus properties. That's an enormous increase in workload.
Well, John, perhaps maybe we move that we covered this missing money and we recommend Denise consider the fact that there may need to be an increase or assess the fact for potential larger increase in our budget. Why don't we give her the guidance to pursue that, but not dictate it?
Can I suggest that you guys pursue it yourselves and not put it on Denise?
Fair enough.
All right, well, Denise, do you want something from us directing you to increase it a minimum to capture that FICA?
I don't know what the precedent is, and actually, I would look to Laura since she's here. I've got her. Does the ARB vote on their budget, or is this just something that we can do? Or
you can plead the fifth if you want, Laura. I mean,
Yeah.
we've only got a few more hours left on the clock.
I might as well.
He's
I'm
never
here.
bothered to vote on their budget. It's always been handled by staff.
Okay, I mean
Except for when what was Jason went off and got some more money for you guys. But staff is just puts in a very generic. This is I'm asking for the same amount we got last year of budget request.
Except you did. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We can, yes, the ARB should approve what we're putting, if we're asking for more, right? Like if we're just putting in the same, used to be $8,800 for years and years and years. It's changed recently because of different things and trainings and secretary pay and stuff. So if we make the justification of why we need it, that's fine. But we need to be, to Elise's point, Denise would have to be able to verify very quickly, like very succinctly and easily why we're asking for the additional amount.
And that the ARB is aware of that. And yeah, it would be good, I guess, yes, to have a motion. I would appreciate it. That, because then I'll just cut and paste. I'll pull it out and I'll put it in the report. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Zellman.
I think I have the amount correct, but I'll move that the ARB increase or make a request to increase its annual budget by $475 to cover increased FICA costs for the recording secretary.
Have a second?
I will second it.
Seconded by Mr. Burns. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
All right. Last but not least, and we'll make it quick. We need a nominating committee by November. It's September now, but last time we totally dropped the ball on this. So we need volunteers for a nominating committee. We don't need to pick them today, but by next month, we need 2 members, I believe, for a nominating committee at a minimum. So for those folks that wish to be on the nominating committee, immediately think about it and be ready to answer for that in October. We don't need to have a scramble like we did last time. All right. I think that was all we have, unless there's any new business from anyone. John, you usually got something.
One quick question. What is the process to ask for reimbursement for attendance at a professional meeting related to our activities? Is it just a letter to the ARB, a letter to Denise?
I think isn't there prior approval required? Is that?
Yeah, so how do I do that?
Oh, okay. So that's a good question. So according to your bylaws, I think you have to get prior approval for expenditures. And so I think you would need to ask now and put the amount and what the expenditure is.
Okay, the conference is in November. I will have something prepared for the October meeting. Thank you.
Okay. But I think there's also some forms that John is thinking of, Denise, that need to be filled out.
I see. Okay.
So if you could get that information for him, because I think there's another step on the back end, the administrative side.
Got it. I will ask.
All right, John,
Thank
we'll
you.
be ready for that.
Okay.
All right, unless there's any other new business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Plumpy.
I just wanted to say that you got me for 3 more years. I went ahead and told my commissioner to put me on for 3 more years. This year was my 15th year. It's amazing how time flies. And so the other thing is car show at the Lorton Arts facility, October 1st. That's all.
Excellent. All right. If there's no other new business, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
The motion to adjourn is always in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Aye.
Night.
Congratulations, Laura.
Peace.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good luck, Laura.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Yes. Good luck. Stop by Birch and Broad Street. Have a beer.